Picture the vast emptiness between worlds. Here, in the cathedral silence of interstellar space, where light takes years to whisper from one star to another, something moves through the darkness. It carries no name from its origin, no memory of the system that birthed it. It simply drifts, a wanderer in the cosmic deep, following gravitational currents older than Earth itself. The object tumbles slowly, end over end, catching starlight on surfaces that have known no atmosphere, no weather, no touch of wind for millions of years. Its trajectory speaks of incredible distances traversed, of a journey that began when our solar system was perhaps just a different arrangement of dust and gas. This is 3I Atlas, though it would not know itself by this designation. A name given by creatures on a blue world, it approaches with mathematical precision. In the depths of space, temperature hovers just above absolute zero. Here, molecules barely vibrate, and time seems stretched thin like cosmic web filaments connecting distant galaxies. Yet 3IA, S moves with purpose, though not its own. It follows the ancient choreography of gravity, responding to the subtle pull of our sun from distances so vast that light itself grows tired crossing them. What secrets does this wanderer carry in its rocky heart? Its surface, scarred by countless micrometeorite impacts, tells stories written in a language of craters and fractures. Each mark represents a moment of contact with debris from star systems whose names we will never know, whose planets may have bloomed and died, while 3IA Talies continued its solitary journey. The darkness around it pulses with invisible energy's cosmic rays that have traveled since the universe was young. Magnetic fields that stretch between star systems like ethereal highways. These forces nudge and shape the visitor's path, creating subtle course corrections that accumulate over geological time. In this way, the galaxy itself becomes navigator, steering wayward children toward destinations they never chose. As 3I Atlas approaches the outer boundaries of our solar system, it enters a realm where the sun's influence begins to whisper its presence. Here, in the Kuiper Belt where forgotten worlds dance their ancient orbits, the visitor starts to change. Solar wind begins to interact with its surface, liberating molecules that have been frozen in place for eons. A faint tail begins to form, not yet visible to Earth's telescopes, but real nonetheless. A cosmic signature announcing the arrival of something that does not belong. The object's composition speaks of its alien origins. Unlike the familiar asteroids and comets that circle our sun in predictable patterns, 31A Tili Caris, within its structure the chemistry of another stellar neighborhood. Its ice is slightly different, its rocky components forged in the nuclear furnaces of stars that burned out before our sun ignited. It represents a physical sample of the greater galaxy, delivered to our doorstep by chance and gravity. But perhaps chance is too simple an explanation. In the vast computational matrix of gravitational interactions that governs galactic motion, every trajectory represents a solution to equations of staggering complexity. 3I Atlas follows a path determined by the positions of billions of stars, the subtle influence of dark matter, and the expansion of space itself. Its arrival in our solar system may be random, or it may represent something more profound, the convergence of cosmic forces that we are only beginning to understand. The visitor carries no radio signals, broadcasts no messages, shows no signs of artificial construction. Yet its very existence poses questions that reach to the heart of our cosmic loneliness. In a universe containing hundreds of billions of galaxies, each hosting hundreds of billions of stars, the arrival of even a simple rock from interstellar space represents a connection across distances that challenge human comprehension. As 3I Atlas continues its approach toward the inner solar system, it begins to accelerate under the sun's gravitational influence. Its long elliptical path, stretched across light years of space, now curves sharply inward. The visitor from between the stars prepares to make its closest approach to the furnace that warms our world unaware. that on the third planet from that star, curious minds have already begun to track its progress and wonder at its origins. Meanwhile, in observatories scattered across Earth's surface, astronomers peered through their instruments and witnessed something unprecedented. The discovery emerged not with fanfare, but with the quiet precision of automated detection systems scanning the night sky for anomalies. When the data first appeared on computer screens, it represented more than just another celestial object. It marked humanity's third confirmed encounter with a visitor from beyond our solar system. The designation 3I Itile, within it the weight of scientific classification. The 3I identifies it as the third confirmed interstellar object, following the enigmatic Oumuamua in 2017 and comet 2I Borisov in 2019. The Atlas portion honors the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, the automated survey that first captured this wanderer in its digital nets. Yet behind these clinical designations lies something far more profound proof that our solar system regularly receives visitors from the cosmic deep. Unlike the familiar objects that orbit our sun in endless repetition, 3I Atlas follows a hyperbolic trajectory. This mathematical description reveals its true nature as an unbound wanderer, a traveler that owes no allegiance to our star's gravitational embrace. Where comets and asteroids trace elliptical paths that eventually bring them back to the same regions of space, hyperbolic visitors arrive from infinity and depart to infinity, making their passage through our solar system a one-time performance on a cosmic stage. The velocity calculations told their own story of impossible distances. 31 LESA approached our solar system and spoke of interstellar origins roughly 40 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, a velocity that could only be achieved through the gravitational assist of our galaxy's S-rotation and the visitor S-own momentum from whatever stellar system had expelled it into the void. This speed placed it firmly in the category of objects that have broken free from their birth stars and now wander freely through the galaxy. Spectroscopic analysis revealed the chemical fingerprints embedded in the light reflected from 3I Cephus. These signatures told of formation conditions unlike anything found in our solar system's native population. The ratios of various elements, the presence of certain compounds, and the way the object S-surface responded to solar heating all pointed to origins in an alien stellar environment where different stellar winds and radiation conditions had shaped its composition over millions of years. The object's physical characteristics defied easy categorization. Its brightness variations suggested a tumbling motion, rotating as it traveled, presenting different surface areas to Earth's observing instruments in a rhythm that spoke of complex rotational dynamics. This tumbling motion likely resulted from gravitational perturbations encountered during its journey close passes by other stars, interactions with dense molecular clouds, or the subtle influence of the galaxy's own gravitational field. Size estimates place 3I Atlas in the range of several hundred meters to perhaps a kilometer in diameter, making it substantial enough to survive the rigors of interstellar travel, yet small enough to have been ejected from its birth system without catastrophic disruption. This size range occupies a sweet spot in cosmic evolution large enough to retain interesting geological history, small enough to be moved by gravitational forces that would barely affect larger bodies. The discovery process itself revealed the sophistication of modern astronomical surveys. Atlas, the system that identified this visitor, represents a network of robotic telescopes that scan the entire visible sky multiple times each night, comparing each observation with previous images to identify anything that moves or changes. When 3IA Telae first appeared in these automated surveys, it manifested as a slight smudge of light moving against the background stars, unremarkable to human eyes, but immediately flagged by software designed to catch such anomalies. Follow-up observations from around the globe confirmed the object's interstellar nature within days of detection. Telescopes in Hawaii, Arizona, Chile, and the Canary Islands all turned their attention to this cosmic wanderer, gathering photons that had bounced off its surface after a journey measured in light years. Each observation added detail to the emerging portrait of an object that represented a physical sample of the broader galaxy, delivered to our neighborhood by the patient mechanics of celestial motion. The international collaboration required to characterize 3.1 LES demonstrated humanity's growing capability to study interstellar visitors. Within weeks of discovery, research teams had determined its trajectory, estimated its size and composition, and begun modeling its behavior as it approached the Sun. This rapid response reflected decades of preparation for exactly such encounters, built on lessons learned from the earlier discoveries of Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. As observations accumulated, 3.1 LAS began to reveal behaviors that distinguished it from its predecessors while confirming its membership in the exclusive family of confirmed interstellar objects. As the Sun's influence grew stronger, 3.1 LES began to reveal its true nature through behavior that puzzled astronomers worldwide. The visitor started to brighten in ways that challenged conventional understanding of how cosmic objects respond to solar heating. Unlike typical comets, which develop predictable tails and comas as their ices sublimate in the warming embrace of our star, 3.1 LAS displayed an erratic pattern of brightening and dimming that suggested something far more complex was occurring. The object's light curve, the mathematical description of how its brightness changed over time, painted a picture of instability. Where astronomers expected smooth, predictable changes corresponding to the visitor's rotation and distance from the Sun, they instead observed sudden flares and unexpected fading. These variations occurred on timescales of hours to days, far too rapid to be explained by simple thermal processes or the slow sublimation of surface ices. Detailed analysis revealed that 3I Atlas was not merely reflecting sunlight like a passive rock. Instead, it appeared to be actively outgassing, releasing material from its interior as solar heating penetrated its surface layers. This process created a tenuous atmosphere around the object, a temporary envelope of gas and dust that scattered sunlight and contributed to the observed brightness variations. The composition of this escaping material provided clues to the visitor's internal structure and the conditions under which it had formed in its alien birth system. The spectroscopic signatures of this outgassing revealed familiar molecules, water vapor, carbon monoxide, and simple organic compounds, but in ratios that differed subtly from those seen in solar system comets. These differences, while small, carried profound implications. They suggested that 3I Atlas had formed in a stellar environment with different temperatures, radiation fields, and chemical abundances than those that had shaped our own system's native population. The visitor carried within its frozen heart a record of alien stellar chemistry. As weeks passed and more observations accumulated, astronomers realized they were witnessing something unprecedented: the partial disintegration of an interstellar visitor under solar heating. High-resolution imaging revealed the 3.1 LA single solid object, but rather a loose collection of fragments held together by weak gravitational and possibly electromagnetic forces. As the Sun's heat penetrated deeper into its structure, these binding forces began to fail, and the object started to break apart. The fragmentation process occurred in slow motion across astronomical scales. Individual pieces, some perhaps the size of city blocks, others no larger than automobiles, began to separate from the main body. Each fragment followed its own slightly different trajectory, creating a dispersing cloud of debris that caught sunlight independently. This breakup explained the erratic brightness variations as new surfaces were exposed and as the total surface area changed. The amount of reflected and scattered light fluctuated unpredictably. The disintegration of 3I Atlas provided an unprecedented opportunity to study the internal structure of an interstellar object. As outer layers peeled away under solar heating, they revealed compositional differences between the surface and interior. The visitor appeared to have a layered structure, possibly the result of different formation episodes in its birth system or chemical changes that had occurred during its millions of years of interstellar travel. Temperature measurements revealed another puzzle. Different parts of the object showed varying thermal responses to solar heating, suggesting either compositional differences or varying degrees of internal cohesion. Some regions heated and cooled in patterns consistent with solid rock, while others displayed thermal behavior more characteristic of loose aggregates or partially hollow structures. This heterogeneity painted a picture of an object with a complex internal architecture, perhaps the result of multiple collision and accretion events in its distant past. The velocity of the escaping gas and debris provided insights into the forces at work within 3I Atlas. Material was being ejected at speeds of several meters per second, fast enough to escape the object's weak gravitational field, but slow enough to remain gravitationally bound to the fragmenting collection as a whole. This created a temporary mini-system, with the largest fragments at the center and smaller debris forming an expanding envelope around them. Ground-based radar observations, normally used to study near-Earth asteroids, detected faint echoes from the largest fragments of 3I C. These radar signatures confirmed the object's breakup and provided additional information about the size distribution of the resulting debris. The data suggested that the fragmentation was not a catastrophic explosion, but rather a gentle coming apart, as if the visitor had been held together by forces only barely sufficient to maintain its integrity during the long journey through interstellar space. The timing of 3I's disintegration raised intriguing questions about the fate of interstellar visitors. Had the object been on the verge of breaking apart for millions of years, held together only by the cold and vacuum of deep space? Was the sun's heating simply the final trigger for a process that had been inevitable since the object's ejection from its birth system? Or had the visitor's long journey through the cosmic medium somehow weakened its internal structure, making it more susceptible to disruption when it finally encountered another star's influence? But what if the conventional interpretation was missing something profound? As 3I Atlas continued its strange behavior, fragmenting and brightening in ways that defied simple models, a small but vocal group of scientists began to consider possibilities that ventured beyond comfortable boundaries of mainstream astronomy. These researchers, led by figures like Harvard's Avi Loeb, suggested that humanity might be witnessing not just a natural phenomenon, but something far more extraordinary, a passage of artificial technology through our solar system. The hypothesis of artificial origins found its foundation in the accumulating anomalies surrounding interstellar visitors. Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar object, had displayed its own puzzling characteristics: an extreme elongated shape, unusual acceleration patterns, and a lack of the expected cometary tail despite showing signs of outgassing. Now 3I presented its own catalog of strange behaviors that seemed to resist explanation through conventional astrophysical processes alone. Loeb and his colleagues pointed to specific characteristics that might indicate artificial construction. The object's fragmentation pattern, rather than resembling the chaotic breakup of a natural body, showed what some interpreted as organized structural failure, as if engineered components were separating along predetermined lines of weakness. The brightness variations, instead of random fluctuations, occasionally displayed patterns that resembled systematic changes in configuration or orientation, possibly indicating active systems responding to solar heating. The velocity and trajectory analysis revealed another intriguing possibility. While 3I's hyperbolic path appeared consistent with natural ejection from another star system, detailed calculations suggested that its approach vector aligned suspiciously well with the galactic plane, the disk of the Milky Way, where most stars and presumably most technological civilizations would be found. This alignment could be coincidental, but it might also indicate a trajectory chosen rather than randomly determined by gravitational dynamics. More provocative still was the object's apparent response to solar radiation. Natural bodies typically show predictable thermal behavior based on their composition and structure. But 3I Atlas displayed thermal signatures that some researchers interpreted as possible evidence of internal heat, sources, or systematic changes in surface properties. Could these variations indicate artificial systems activating as the object approached our star? Perhaps solar collection arrays beginning to function after eons of dormancy. The fragmentation process itself raised uncomfortable questions for those willing to consider unconventional explanations. The way pieces separated from the main body seemed almost modular, as if individual components were detaching from a larger assembly. The fact that these fragments maintained roughly similar trajectories suggested either remarkable coincidence or some form of coordinated behavior. Could 3I Atlas represent not a single object, but a collection of smaller probes or instruments designed to separate when approaching a star system for more detailed exploration? Communication attempts, while unsuccessful, revealed interesting data patterns. Radio telescopes pointed at 3I Atlas during its passage detected no obvious artificial signals, but the sensitivity limits of these observations left room for more subtle forms of communication. The object's rotation and orientation changes, rather than being purely random, occasionally seem to align with optimal angles for signal transmission toward specific regions of the galaxy. These alignments could be meaningless coincidences, or they could indicate a probe attempting to communicate with its creators across interstellar distances. The composition analysis, while generally consistent with natural formation, contained subtle anomalies that artificial origin proponents found significant. Certain isotope ratios fell outside the expected ranges for objects formed in most stellar environments, possibly indicating artificial enrichment or processing. The presence of organized layering in the object's structure, revealed during its disintegration, resembled engineered composite materials more than the random heterogeneity expected in natural aggregates. Perhaps most intriguingly, the timing of 3I Atlas's arrival coincided with humanity, as emergence as a technological civilization capable of detecting and studying interstellar visitors. The statistical probability of natural interstellar objects arriving just as we develop the capability to observe them struck some researchers as suspiciously convenient. Could the visitor represent deliberate timing, designed to make contact with a civilization that had recently achieved the ability to recognize artificial objects in space? The counter-arguments to artificial origins remained robust and scientifically conservative. The vast majority of astronomers pointed to natural explanations for all of 3I Atlas's observed characteristics, noting that our understanding of interstellar object behavior remained limited due to the small sample size of confirmed visitors. Unusual does not necessarily mean artificial, they argued, and the tendency to invoke exotic explanations for poorly understood phenomena had led astronomy astray in the past. Yet the questions persisted, gnawing at the edges of comfortable scientific certainty. If even a small percentage of interstellar visitors represented artificial probes rather than natural debris, the implications would revolutionize our understanding of galactic civilization and our place within it. The very act of considering such possibilities, regardless of their ultimate validity, forced humanity to confront fundamental questions about intelligence, technology, and the likelihood of contact with non-human minds. As 3I Atlas continued its journey through the inner solar system, fragmenting and fading as it approached its closest point to the Sun, it carried with it not just the physical record of its origins, but the weight of human speculation about what those origins might truly represent. Perhaps the most profound aspect of 3I Atlas lies not in what it represents, but in what we see when we look upon it. A visitor from interstellar space becomes a cosmic mirror, reflecting back our deepest assumptions about intelligence, purpose, and our place in the vast theater of the galaxy. Every observation, every interpretation, every theory we construct around such objects reveals as much about human consciousness as it does about the nature of the cosmos itself. When we encounter the inexplicable, we instinctively reach for patterns that match our own experience. The suggestion that 3I Atlas might represent artificial technology springs not merely from scientific anomalies, but from a fundamental human tendency to anthropomorphize the unknown. We search for intention where randomness might suffice, for design where natural processes could explain everything. This impulse runs deeper than mere scientific curiosity. It touches the profound loneliness that characterizes our species' relationship with the universe. The very language we use to describe interstellar visitors betrays our psychological investment in their significance. They are mysterious, enigmatic, puzzling, words that imply they should be comprehensible to us, that their strangeness represents a failure of our understanding rather than the natural result of alien origins. We speak of them as messengers and visitors, terms that inherently suggest purpose and intention. A rock tumbling through space becomes transformed through our perception into something approaching consciousness. This transformation reveals humanity's persistent search for cosmic companionship. In a universe that appears overwhelmingly empty of obvious intelligence, every anomaly becomes a potential signal, every unexplained phenomenon a possible message. The statistical likelihood that most interstellar objects represent simple debris ejected by gravitational interactions matters less than the psychological comfort found in imagining that we are not alone. 3.1 LES becomes not just a chunk of rock and ice from another star system, but a hope made manifest in the vacuum of space. The scientific method demands objectivity, yet the humans who practice science remain creatures driven by emotion, intuition, and existential need. When astronomers debate the artificial versus natural origins of interstellar visitors, they engage in more than technical dispute. They wrestle with questions that have haunted our species since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what might be looking back. The data points and spectroscopic analysis become proxies for deeper investigations into the nature of consciousness and the likelihood of galactic civilization. Our historical relationship with comets and unusual celestial phenomena provides context for understanding our response to objects like 3I ATLA ISRA throughout human history. Unexpected visitors from space have been interpreted as omens, divine messengers, harbingers of change, or signs of supernatural intervention. The medieval chronicles that described comets as bearded stars or swords in the sky reflect the same psychological impulse that leads modern researchers to speculate about alien probes. The tools of observation have become more sophisticated, but the underlying human need to find meaning in cosmic anomalies remains unchanged. The fragmentary nature of our knowledge about interstellar visitors creates fertile ground for projection and speculation. With only 3 confirmed examples and limited observational data for each, we construct elaborate theories based on minimal evidence. This uncertainty becomes a canvas upon which we paint our hopes, fears, and assumptions about the broader universe. 3.1 LES transforms from a physical object into a Rorschach test written in starlight and radio waves. The timing of these discoveries, coinciding with our technological adolescence as a spacefaring civilization, adds another layer of psychological complexity. We have reached the point where we can detect and study interstellar visitors, just as we begin to contemplate our own expansion beyond the solar system. This synchronicity feeds speculation about deliberate contact, about civilizations that time their communications to coincide with target species' technological emergence. The possibility remains scientifically dubious, but psychologically compelling. The debates surrounding objects like 3I ATLAs also reflect deeper cultural anxieties about humanity's cosmic significance. If these visitors prove to be artificial, we must confront the reality of intelligences that have achieved capabilities. We can barely imagine technologies that can traverse interstellar space, civilizations old enough to have launched probes that only now reach our system. Such realities would place humanity in the position of cosmic children, recipients of attention from entities whose motivations and methods we can hardly comprehend. Conversely, the natural explanation for interstellar visitors offers its own form of psychological comfort. If 3 Teles represents merely the random debris of gravitational dynamics, we remain free to imagine ourselves as potentially unique, possibly the first intelligence to arise in our local galactic neighborhood. The universe becomes a stage set for human expansion, rather than a crowded theater where we play minor roles in scripts written by others. The mirror that 3 Teles holds up to humanity reveals a species caught between cosmic insignificance and desperate hope for connection. We project agency onto randomness, search for patterns in chaos, and find meaning in coincidence because the alternative true cosmic solitude challenges our deepest assumptions about purpose and destiny. Long before telescopes pierced the veil of space to reveal visitors from between the stars, human eyes tracked wanderers across the celestial dome. Ancient civilizations developed sophisticated systems for observing and interpreting the movements of objects that defied the orderly procession of planets and the fixed patterns of constellations. These sky watchers, armed with nothing more than careful observation and mathematical insight, recognized that some celestial visitors followed paths that spoke of origins beyond the familiar solar system. The Babylonians, master astronomers of the ancient world, maintained detailed records of celestial phenomena that stretched back over millennia. Their cuneiform tablets describe hairy stars and wandering spirits that appeared without warning, blazed across the heavens, and vanished into the cosmic deep. Some of these descriptions match what we now recognize as comets from the outer solar system, but others detail objects that appeared suddenly, moved in unexpected directions, and disappeared without following the predictable patterns of normal celestial mechanics. Chinese astronomical records, spanning over 3,000 years of continuous observation, contain references to guest stars and broom stars that challenged conventional understanding of heavenly order. The Han Dynasty astronomers, with their sophisticated understanding of planetary motion and stellar positions, occasionally recorded objects that appeared to move contrary to all known patterns. These records describe visitors that seemed to emerge from the star fields themselves, follow hyperbolic paths across the sky, and vanish back into the stellar background without completing orbital cycles. The ancient Greeks, with their passion for geometric harmony and celestial mechanics, struggled to explain certain categories of celestial visitors within their Earth-centered cosmological models. Aristotle distinguished between the eternal, unchanging realm of the stars and the temporary phenomena of the atmospheric sphere, but some recorded observations defied this neat categorization. Objects appeared that seemed to originate from the stellar realm, yet displayed the temporary, changing characteristics of atmospheric phenomena. Maya astronomical texts contain references to celestial visitors that their sophisticated calendar systems could not predict or incorporate into their cyclical understanding of cosmic time. These objects appeared to exist outside the great celestial cycles that governed Mayan cosmology, suggesting origins that transcended the local astronomical environment. The Maya interpreted such visitors as messengers from regions of space beyond their mathematical models, carrying information about cosmic realms that remained inaccessible to terrestrial observation. Norse mythology preserves stories of objects that fell from Asgard, the realm of the gods located among the stars. These myths describe visitors that brought both knowledge and catastrophe, objects that could reshape the landscape and alter the course of human history. While clearly mythological in presentation, these stories may preserve cultural memories of actual celestial events' impacts or close approaches by objects that originated outside the familiar solar system environment. Hindu astronomical texts contain detailed descriptions of cosmic visitors that arrived during specific yugas or cosmic ages. The Vedic literature describes objects that appeared during transitions between cosmic cycles, suggesting a connection between interstellar visitors and the broader evolution of the universe itself. These ancient texts sometimes describe the visitors as vehicles or weapons of the gods, but their observational details often match characteristics we now associate with interstellar objects. Aboriginal Australian oral traditions, maintained across tens of thousands of years, contain stories of rainbow serpents and celestial visitors that traverse the sky roads connecting different regions of space. These traditional accounts describe objects that arrived from specific stellar regions and departed toward others, following paths that seem to connect different star systems. The longevity of these oral traditions suggests they may preserve observational knowledge that predates written history. Ancient Egyptian records describe fiery serpents that appeared in the sky during times of dynastic transition. These objects were interpreted as divine messengers or omens of change, but their described characteristics, sudden appearance, unusual motion, and spectacular fragmentation match what we might expect from interstellar visitors disrupting under solar heating. The Egyptians' careful attention to astronomical cycles would have made genuinely anomalous objects particularly noteworthy. The common threads running through these diverse cultural records suggest that ancient astronomers regularly observed objects that behaved differently from familiar comets and meteors. These visitors appeared without warning, followed unexpected trajectories, and often displayed characteristics that challenged existing cosmological models. While most such observations likely involved unusual but natural solar system objects, some may represent actual encounters with interstellar visitors objects, like 3-1 Atlas that periodically pass through our cosmic neighborhood. The mythological interpretation of these ancient observations reveals humanity's persistent need to incorporate cosmic visitors into broader narratives about divine will, cosmic purpose, and the relationship between earthly events and celestial phenomena. Ancient sky watchers understood that objects arriving from the stellar realm carried significance that transcended mere astronomical curiosity. They represented connections to cosmic domains beyond human experience, messages from realms that remained forever mysterious. These historical perspectives provide context for understanding our modern encounter with 3-1 ADALAS and similar interstellar visitors. Our sophisticated instruments and theoretical frameworks represent an evolution of the same human impulse that drove ancient astronomers to track unusual objects across the night sky, seeking patterns and meaning in the cosmic dance of celestial mechanics. Throughout human history, the act of calling upon forces from beyond the familiar world has carried an undertone of dread alongside wonder. Ancient traditions warned that some powers, once invoked, might prove impossible to control or dismiss. This primordial fear finds new expression in our modern contemplation of interstellar visitors like 3-1 LELES objects that arrive unbidden from the cosmic deep, carrying unknown intentions and unimaginable capabilities. The concept of summoning exists at the intersection of desire and terror, reflecting humanity's ambivalent relationship with forces greater than ourselves. In mythological traditions across cultures, the act of calling upon supernatural entities inevitably carried risks commensurate with the power being invoked. Gods and demons alike demanded prices for their intervention, and the supplicant could never be certain whether the summoned entity would serve human purposes or pursue its own incomprehensible agenda. This ancient archetype finds disturbing parallels in our scientific age. When we transmit radio signals into deep space through projects like SETI, when we announce our presence through powerful radar transmissions and deliberate communications, are we engaging in a form of cosmic summoning? The mathematical messages encoded in electromagnetic radiation become incantations broadcast across the galaxy, potentially attracting attention from intelligences whose nature and intentions remain utterly unknown. The arrival of interstellar visitors raises uncomfortable questions about causation and response. Could our increasing technological activity, our radio transmissions, our space exploration, our growing electromagnetic signature somehow influence the trajectory or behavior of objects already traveling between star systems? The physics seems to preclude such interactions across interstellar distances, yet the timing of these discoveries, coinciding with our emergence as a spacefaring civilization, creates an unsettling synchronicity. Religious and occult traditions have long recognized the concept of inadvertent summoning, the idea that certain activities or states of consciousness can attract unwanted attention from entities that normally ignore human affairs. Modern physics offers its own version of this concern through the observer effect and quantum entanglement, phenomena that suggest observation itself can influence the behavior of distant systems. Could our focused attention on interstellar visitors, our intensive study and speculation, somehow affect their properties or destinations? The fragmentation of 3I Atlas, as it approached our Sun, takes on ominous overtones when viewed through the lens of summoning mythology. In traditional narratives, entities called from distant realms often proved unstable when exposed to terrestrial conditions, either dissolving back into their native dimensions or transforming into forms that defied the summoner's original intentions. The visitor's disintegration under solar heating might represent not just physical breakdown, but a kind of dimensional instability triggered by its entry into our local space-time environment. Ancient grimoires and magical texts describe elaborate precautions required when invoking otherworldly entities, protective circles, binding constraints, dismissal procedures designed to send summoned beings back to their origins after their purposes were served. Modern astronomy possesses no equivalent safeguards. When we detect and study interstellar visitors, we do so without protocols for managing entities that might prove to be more than simple chunks of rock and ice. The possibility that some interstellar objects might represent artificial constructs amplifies these concerns exponentially. If 3IA, Tale, S or similar visitors carry within them dormant technologies, advanced materials, or even forms of intelligence we cannot recognize, our observations and interactions might trigger responses we are unprepared to handle. The very act of detection could serve as an activation signal, awakening systems that have traveled for millions of years in patient dormancy. Science fiction literature has long explored scenarios where humanity's attempts to contact or study alien artifacts result in consequences far beyond our ability to predict or control. These fictional warnings reflect deeper anxieties about the hubris inherent in assuming that our limited understanding of physics and intelligence provides adequate preparation for cosmic contact. The universe may contain forms of consciousness and technology that operate according to principles we have not yet discovered or even imagined. The collective unconscious seems to carry persistent warnings about the dangers of summoning archetypal knowledge that transcends specific cultural contexts and appears across diverse mythological systems. Jung suggested that such universal patterns reflect deep truths about the human condition and our relationship with transcendent forces. Our modern encounter with interstellar visitors may activate these ancient patterns, triggering instinctive fears that operate below the level of rational analysis. The democratic nature of modern astronomical observation adds another dimension to summoning concerns. Unlike ancient rituals that required specialized knowledge and careful preparation, anyone with access to radio telescopes or internet communications can potentially participate in signaling toward interstellar objects. The lack of centralized control over such activities means that humanity engages in cosmic communication without coordination, protocol, or unified intention. As we continue to study objects like 3IA, Pleias, we might consider whether our ancestors' fears about summoning reflect genuine wisdom rather than primitive superstition. The universe appears to be far stranger and more complex than our current theories suggest, and our interactions with visitors from interstellar space may carry consequences that extend far beyond the boundaries of conventional scientific observation. Yet what if the fear itself points toward possibility? Modern physics and engineering have advanced to the point where the ancient dream of summoning cosmic visitors has evolved from mythology into theoretical reality. The same scientific principles that explain the natural behavior of objects like 3.1 LES also reveal potential methods for influencing, redirecting, or even actively calling such visitors toward our solar system. Gravitational dynamics, the fundamental force that governs the motion of interstellar objects, can be manipulated through careful positioning of massive bodies or artificially generated gravitational fields. While our current technology cannot create significant gravitational effects, theoretical frameworks suggest that sufficiently advanced civilizations might construct gravitational lenses or field generators, capable of steering incoming objects along desired trajectories. The precise calculations required to redirect an object traveling at interstellar velocities would demand computational capabilities that exceed our current limits. But the physical principles remain sound. Directed energy systems represent another theoretical pathway for interstellar object manipulation. High-powered laser arrays, positioned at strategic points throughout the solar system, could theoretically apply radiation pressure to incoming visitors, subtly altering their trajectories over the vast timescales of interstellar travel. The energy requirements would be enormous, and the precision demands extraordinary. But such systems fall within the realm of conceivable future technology. A civilization with fusion power and space-based manufacturing might construct beacon networks capable of guiding interstellar visitors toward specific destinations. The concept of signal beacons extends beyond mere trajectory manipulation to include active communication and detection systems. Current SETI protocols focus primarily on listening for signals from space, but advancing technology enables increasingly powerful transmission capabilities. Radio telescopes like Arecibo and the Very Large Array can already broadcast signals with sufficient power to be detected by similar instruments across interstellar distances. Future developments in coherent transmission technology might enable signals capable of reaching objects traveling between star systems, potentially triggering responses from artificial systems aboard interstellar visitors. Quantum communication principles suggest even more exotic possibilities for interstellar signaling. Quantum entanglement effects, while limited by light speed constraints for classical information transfer, might enable novel forms of interaction with quantum systems aboard interstellar objects. If such visitors contain quantum computers or quantum communication arrays, properly configured signals might establish connections that transcend traditional electromagnetic limitations. The theoretical framework for such communication remains speculative, but ongoing developments in quantum physics continue to expand the boundaries of possibility. Electromagnetic field manipulation offers another potential avenue for influencing interstellar visitors. Objects traveling through space interact continuously with a galaxy's magnetic field environment, and sufficiently powerful electromagnetic installations might create field disturbances capable of affecting the trajectories or behavior of metallic visitors. Solar-wind interactions, which already influence the behavior of natural comets and asteroids, might be artificially enhanced or directed to create steering effects on appropriately responsive objects. The timing considerations for interstellar object manipulation highlight both the challenges and opportunities inherent in such endeavors. Objects like 3I Atlas approach our solar system with velocities and trajectories determined by millions of years of gravitational interactions. Influencing such trajectories requires interventions that begin while the objects remain far beyond current detection limits, demanding predictive capabilities and planning horizons that exceed human historical experience. Yet the same vast timescales that make intervention challenging also provide extended opportunities for gradual influence accumulation. Space-based infrastructure development could enable increasingly sophisticated interstellar visitor management systems. Networks of observation satellites positioned throughout the outer solar system might detect incoming objects decades or centuries before they reach the inner planets, providing extended timeframes for analysis and potential interaction. Automated systems could monitor continuously for the electromagnetic or gravitational signatures of approaching visitors, triggering response protocols when certain criteria are met. The exponential advancement of artificial intelligence suggests that future beacon systems might operate with autonomous decision-making capabilities far exceeding human cognitive limitations. AI networks could maintain continuous vigilance across interstellar distances, analyzing patterns in cosmic visitor behavior and implementing intervention strategies without requiring direct human oversight. Such systems might recognize artificial visitors through characteristics invisible to human observers, enabling communication attempts specifically targeted toward technological artifacts rather than natural objects. The energy requirements for effective interstellar beacon systems would demand advances in power generation and management that stretch current technological capabilities. However, the same fusion and antimatter technologies that would enable human interstellar travel could also power beacon networks capable of significant interstellar influence. A civilization with mature space industry and abundant energy resources might construct beacon systems as naturally as we currently build communication satellites and navigation networks. As we study visitors like 3IIC, we simultaneously develop the observational and theoretical frameworks that future beacon systems would require. Each interstellar object provides data about the behavior, composition, and trajectory characteristics that would inform the design of systems intended to detect, analyze, and potentially interact with similar future visitors. The forest stretched endless and silent beneath the Siberian dawn of June 30th, 1908. Ancient pines and birches stood in ranks that had witnessed centuries pass without disturbance, their roots deep in permafrost that remembered ice ages and their crowns reaching toward skies that had seen the rise and fall of empires. In this wilderness, where human footsteps fell rarely and the nearest settlement lay hundreds of kilometers away, something approached from beyond the edge of space. At precisely 7:14 local time, the northern sky caught fire. Witnesses hundreds of kilometers away would later describe a second sun blazing across the heavens, a column of light so brilliant it cast shadows in broad daylight and could be seen clearly from distances that should have rendered it invisible. The object moved with impossible speed, crossing the entire visible sky in moments, while trailing flames that seemed to burn the very air through which it passed. The explosion, when it came, released energy equivalent to hundreds of atomic bombs. The shock wave flattened trees across 2,000 square kilometers of forest, creating a butterfly pattern of destruction that radiated outward from the epicenter, like the fingerprint of some cosmic force. Windows shattered in villages beyond the horizon, and the atmospheric disturbance registered on sensitive instruments as far away as Western Europe. Yet when investigators finally reached the remote blast site years later, they found no crater, no meteorite fragments, no physical evidence of what had caused such devastation. Scientific expeditions to the Tunguska site uncovered mysteries that deepened rather than resolved with each discovery. The trees at ground zero remained standing, stripped of branches and bark, but somehow unuprooted, as if the explosion had occurred in the air above them, rather than from impact with the ground. The destruction pattern showed characteristics unlike any known terrestrial explosion or conventional meteorite strike. Radiation levels, when finally measured decades later, showed anomalies that defied explanation through normal meteoric impact scenarios. Local Iwenki people, the indigenous inhabitants of the region, possessed oral traditions that spoke of periodic visitors from the sky objects that appeared at generational intervals, sometimes bringing destruction, sometimes passing peacefully overhead. Their shamanic traditions included rituals for appeasing or deflecting such cosmic entities, suggesting cultural memories of previous encounters with unusual celestial phenomena. The 1908 event fit patterns described in legends that predated written history. More troubling were the biological effects discovered in the blast zone. Trees that survived the initial explosion showed accelerated growth rates in subsequent years, as if exposed to some form of energizing radiation. Genetic mutations appeared in plant and animal populations, with frequencies far exceeding normal background rates. These effects persisted for decades, creating an ecosystem that remained subtly different from surrounding unaffected regions. The object's trajectory, reconstructed from eyewitness accounts and physical evidence, followed a path that seemed inconsistent with normal meteoric orbits. Instead of the steep, approximately vertical descent typical of space debris entering Earth's atmosphere, the Tunguska visitor maintained a shallow angle that suggested either unusual orbital mechanics or active maneuvering during its approach. Some witnesses described course corrections or changes in the object's behavior as it passed overhead. Photography and instrumental records from the event revealed atmospheric effects that extended far beyond the immediate blast zone. The entire northern hemisphere experienced unusual aurora activity for weeks following the explosion. Atmospheric pressure waves circulated around the globe multiple times, and sensitive magnetometers recorded disturbances in Earth's magnetic field that persisted long after the initial event. These effects suggested interactions with planetary systems that transcended simple kinetic impact. Investigations conducted throughout the 20th century failed to locate the expected impact crater or debris field. Core samples from lakes in the region showed no evidence of the exotic materials that should have been deposited by a large meteoric impact. Instead, researchers found microscopic particles with isotopic ratios that differed from typical solar system materials, suggesting possible exotic origins or artificial composition. Attempts to recreate the Tunguska explosion through conventional means consistently failed to match the observed destruction pattern and environmental effects. Nuclear testing programs during the Cold War provided data on atmospheric explosions, but even these events produced different signatures than those observed at Tunguska. The unique combination of airburst characteristics, radiation effects, and long-term environmental changes remained unexplained by conventional explosive mechanisms. The timing of the Tunguska event, occurring during a period of increased human technological development and growing interest in electromagnetic phenomena, struck some researchers as suspiciously coincidental. The explosion happened just as humanity was beginning to experiment with radio transmission and to contemplate the possibility of communication with extraterrestrial intelligence. Could the visitor have been responding to early electromagnetic signals from Earth? Or might its arrival have been timed to coincide with humanity's technological emergence? As modern astronomy identifies increasing numbers of interstellar visitors, like 3I Atlas, the Tunguska event takes on new significance as a possible historical precedent for close encounters with objects from beyond our solar system. Meanwhile, deeper mysteries emerge when we consider what travelers from interstellar space might carry within their frozen hearts beyond mere rock and ice. The theory of panspermia suggests that life itself journeys between star systems aboard cosmic wanderers, that the chemistry of biology spreads through the galaxy via the same gravitational dynamics that transport objects like 3I Atlas across the vast emptiness between worlds. The concept transcends simple transportation of microorganisms. If life represents a fundamental organizing principle of matter and energy, then every interstellar visitor becomes a potential library, carrying within its molecular structure information about the biological experiments occurring in distant stellar systems. The complex organic compounds detected in comets and asteroids' amino acids, nucleotide bases, lipid precursors, might represent more than random chemical evolution. They could constitute messages written in the universal language of biochemistry. Analysis of the material ejected during 3I Atlas S fragmentation revealed the presence of complex carbon-based molecules that had survived millions of years of interstellar travel. These compounds, shielded within the object's interior from the harsh radiation environment of deep space, preserved chemical information about the conditions under which they formed. Spectroscopic signatures suggested the presence of chirally-specific molecules compounds that display the same left or right-handed orientation preferences seen in terrestrial biology. The implications stretch beyond coincidence towards something approaching intention. Biological systems consistently favor specific molecular orientations over their mirror images, a preference that theoretical chemistry cannot fully explain through random processes alone. The discovery of similar chiral preferences in interstellar objects suggests either a universal bias in organic chemistry or the presence of biological influence in the formation of these compounds. Both possibilities point toward connections between star systems that transcend simple gravitational mechanics. Extremophile research on Earth has revealed life forms capable of surviving conditions that approach those found in interstellar space. Organisms discovered in deep ocean volcanic vents, Antarctic ice sheets, and highly radioactive environments demonstrate biological resilience under temperature, pressure, and radiation conditions that were previously considered incompatible with life. These discoveries suggest that biological systems might indeed survive the millions of years required for interstellar travel, dormant within the protective matrices of cosmic visitors. The mathematical elegance of genetic codes raises profound questions about information, preservation, and transmission across cosmic distances. DNA and RNA represent information storage systems of extraordinary efficiency and stability, capable of maintaining complex data structures across millions of reproductive cycles. If such systems evolved independently on multiple worlds, interstellar visitors might serve as intergalactic libraries, carrying genetic information between star systems and facilitating evolutionary cross-pollination on a galactic scale. Simulation studies of interstellar object interiors suggest that certain configurations could maintain liquid water environments for extended periods during interstellar travel. Radioactive decay heat, combined with effective insulation provided by surrounding ice and rock, might create stable microenvironments where biological processes could continue even in the vacuum of deep space. Such protected zones would constitute miniature biospheres, complete ecosystems traveling between the stars. The arrival timing of interstellar visitors relative to planetary evolutionary stages introduces another layer of complexity to panspermia theories. If biological information spreads through the galaxy via cosmic messengers, the timing of their arrival at developing worlds would determine whether they serve as catalysts for abiogenesis or as sources of evolutionary disruption. Earth's biological history includes several episodes of rapid evolutionary innovation that coincide temporally with periods of increased extraterrestrial impact activity. Quantum biology research reveals that biological systems utilize quantum mechanical effects for energy transport, information processing, and environmental sensing. If consciousness and biological organization depend partially on quantum phenomena, interstellar objects might serve as carriers of quantum information states, in addition to classical biochemical compounds. The entanglement relationships established in one star system might persist during interstellar travel, creating information connections that transcend the light speed limitations of classical communication. The fragmentation pattern observed in 3IA, Tie, Psi, takes on new significance when viewed through the lens of biological messaging. Rather than representing simple structural failure, the breakup process might constitute a deliberate dispersal mechanism designed to distribute biological information across multiple trajectories and increase the probability of successful delivery to habitable worlds. Each fragment becomes an independent messenger, carrying redundant copies of essential biological templates. Laboratory analysis of meteoritic organic compounds has revealed the presence of nucleotide bases and amino acid sequences that show statistical patterns inconsistent with random chemical synthesis. Some researchers interpret these patterns as possible evidence of biological origin, suggesting that at least some of the complex organic compounds found in spaceborne objects derive from biological rather than purely geochemical processes. If confirmed, such findings would indicate that the galaxy contains a vast network of biological information exchange mediated by interstellar objects. The concept of directed panspermia suggests that advanced civilizations might deliberately use interstellar objects as vehicles for biological seeding programs. Instead of waiting for random gravitational ejection to transport biological materials between star systems, technological civilizations might actively launch carefully designed biological payloads toward promising target worlds. 31Lers and similar visitors might represent such directed missions carrying biological templates designed to catalyze evolution on worlds approaching suitable developmental stages. As our understanding of interstellar visitors deepens, so too does our recognition that advanced technology might enable active summoning of such objects through methods that transcend the passive observation and speculation that currently define our relationship with cosmic wonders. The same physical principles that govern the natural behavior of objects, like 31ADLAS, also suggest pathways for deliberate influence and direction of interstellar traffic through engineering approaches that stretch but do not violate known scientific laws. Artificial intelligence networks, distributed across space-based platforms throughout the solar system, could maintain continuous surveillance of the interstellar medium for approaching objects decades or centuries before they become detectable through conventional astronomical methods. These AI systems would analyze gravitational perturbations, electromagnetic signatures, and subtle changes in background stellar occlusion patterns to identify visitors while they remain far beyond the range of traditional optical telescopes. Early detection enables extended timeframes for analysis and potential intervention. Advanced propulsion systems currently under theoretical development could serve dual purposes as interstellar object manipulation tools. Fusion ramjets, antimatter drives, and exotic matter propulsion systems generate reaction forces and energy outputs sufficient to alter the trajectories of massive objects across interstellar distances. Fleets of autonomous vehicles equipped with such propulsion systems could intercept incoming visitors and apply carefully calculated course corrections to direct them toward specific destinations within the solar system. Quantum communication technologies might enable information exchange with artificial systems aboard interstellar visitors without requiring the multi-year signal delays inherent in electromagnetic communication across cosmic distances. If incoming objects contain quantum computers or quantum communication arrays, properly configured quantum entanglement networks established prior to their departure from distant star systems could enable real-time coordination between solar system-based control systems and visitor-based response systems. Gravitational wave generation and manipulation represent exotic but theoretically possible methods for long-range influence of interstellar objects. While current technology cannot produce significant gravitational waves through artificial means, theoretical frameworks suggest that sufficiently advanced engineering might create controllable gravitational field fluctuations capable of affecting the motion of sensitive objects across interstellar distances. The precision requirements would be extraordinary, but the fundamental physics appears sound. Stellar engineering approaches offer the most ambitious possibilities for interstellar visitor summoning. Civilizations capable of manipulating stellar output through Dyson sphere construction or controlled stellar evolution could create lighthouse effects visible across galactic distances. Systematic variations in stellar brightness, controlled stellar wind emission, or artificially generated stellar flares could serve as beacon signals specifically designed to attract or guide interstellar objects equipped with appropriate detection systems. Nanotechnology applications suggest methods for microscale intervention in interstellar object behavior. Self-replicating molecular machines deployed aboard incoming visitors could gradually alter their internal structure, composition, or response characteristics over the extended timeframes of interstellar travel. Such systems might activate dormant capabilities, modify trajectory control systems, or prepare the objects for specific functions upon arrival in the target star system. Biological engineering approaches might enable the creation of living systems capable of surviving interstellar travel and actively guiding or modifying the behavior of cosmic visitors. Engineered organisms designed for extreme environment survival could be deployed aboard outgoing interstellar objects, where they would remain dormant during the journey and activate upon approaching target star systems. These biological systems could serve as both messengers and active guidance systems for interstellar traffic. Network effects between multiple interstellar visitors could enable coordinated behavior patterns that transcend the capabilities of individual objects. If several visitors arrive within overlapping timeframes, their combined gravitational, electromagnetic, or quantum effects might create interference patterns or resonance phenomena capable of achieving objectives impossible for single objects. Coordinating such network effects would require planning and communication systems of extraordinary sophistication. Virtual reality and consciousness transfer technologies suggest possibilities for direct human involvement in interstellar object guidance and control. Instead of relying entirely on automated systems, advanced civilizations might embed consciousness transfer capabilities aboard interstellar visitors, enabling direct human or posthuman control of object behavior during critical approach and encounter phases. Such systems would allow real-time decision-making and adaptive response to unexpected conditions. Machine learning and predictive modeling capabilities continue to advance toward levels that might enable accurate forecasting of interstellar object trajectories and behaviors across cosmic timescales. AI systems trained on comprehensive databases of gravitational dynamics, stellar evolution, and interstellar medium conditions might develop the predictive accuracy necessary to plan and execute intervention strategies spanning millions of years and multiple star system encounters. The convergence of multiple advanced technologies suggests that future civilizations might develop integrated interstellar visitor management capabilities that combine detection, analysis, communication, and control functions into unified systems. Rather than passive observation of random cosmic visitors, such civilizations might actively cultivate networks of interstellar objects, serving various functions: communication relays, resource transport systems, exploration probes, or biological seeding mechanisms. As we continue studying objects like 3I Atlas with increasingly sophisticated instruments and analytical techniques, we simultaneously develop the technological foundations that could eventually enable active summoning and management of interstellar visitors. But perhaps the most profound form of summoning operates through channels that transcend the mechanical precision of advanced technology, reaching into realms where consciousness itself becomes the medium through which cosmic connections form. Across cultures and throughout history, human belief systems have maintained that focused intention, ritual practice, and elevated states of consciousness can influence events across distances that defy conventional understanding of causation and effect. The quantum mechanical principle of observer effect suggests that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining the behavior of physical systems, particularly at scales where quantum phenomena dominate classical physics. If this principle extends beyond laboratory-scale experiments to cosmic-scale phenomena, then human consciousness focused collectively on interstellar visitors might influence their behavior, trajectory, or timing in ways that remain invisible to conventional scientific measurement, but nevertheless produce observable effects. Ancient shamanic traditions describe techniques for calling entities from distant realms through combinations of altered consciousness, ritual practice, and synchronized group intention. These practices, developed independently across diverse cultural contexts, consistently describe protocols for establishing connections with non-local consciousnesses and influencing events beyond the range of direct physical intervention. Modern practitioners of these traditions claim continued effectiveness in establishing such connections, including the ability to influence the behavior of celestial objects. The morphic resonance theory proposed by biologist Rupert Sheldrake suggests that patterns of organization and behavior can propagate across space and time through non-local field effects that operate independently of known physical forces. If such fields exist and respond to conscious intention, then human focus on interstellar visitors might create morphic patterns that influence the probability of future encounters or the characteristics of objects that approach our solar system. Meditation traditions describe states of consciousness in which practitioners report direct experiential contact with cosmic intelligence networks that span galactic distances. These experiences, while subjective and difficult to verify through conventional scientific methods, consistently describe interaction with entities associated with interstellar travel and cosmic exploration. Some practitioners claim the ability to influence the timing and characteristics of such encounters through focused meditation and intention work. Collective consciousness research suggests that large groups of humans focusing simultaneously on specific objectives and produce measurable effects on random event generators, biological systems, and even geological phenomena. If these effects scale with group size and intentional focus, then planetary-scale meditation or prayer events focused on interstellar contact might influence the probability of encounters with objects like 31A Tylies through mechanisms that remain beyond current scientific understanding. The role of synchronicity in cosmic encounters raises questions about the relationship between human psychological states and the timing of significant celestial events. Carl Jung's analysis of meaningful coincidences suggested that consciousness and external events sometimes align in ways that transcend causal explanation, creating patterns of meaning that reflect deeper organizing principles of reality. The arrival of interstellar visitors during periods of human technological and spiritual development might represent such synchronistic patterns. Channeling and contactee phenomena, while controversial and scientifically unverified, consistently report communication with entities associated with interstellar travel and cosmic civilization. These communications often include information about the timing and characteristics of future celestial encounters, suggesting either genuine communication with non-human intelligence or the operation of procognitive abilities that enable advanced knowledge of cosmic events. Some contactees claim the ability to request or influence the timing of such encounters. The placebo effect demonstrates that belief itself can produce measurable physical changes in biological systems, suggesting that consciousness possesses causal efficacy that extends beyond passive observation into active influence on material reality. If consciousness can influence biological systems through belief and expectation, similar mechanisms might operate on cosmic scales, allowing collective human belief about interstellar contact to influence the probability and characteristics of actual encounters. New Age spiritual movements have developed elaborate protocols for what they term cosmic summoning practices designed to attract the attention of advanced extraterrestrial civilizations and invite contact through combinations of meditation, visualization, and ritual ceremony. While these practices lack scientific validation, their practitioners report consistent experiences that suggest either genuine contact with non-human intelligence or the activation of psychological and perceptual states that enhance sensitivity to cosmic phenomena. The anthropic principle in cosmology suggests that the fundamental constants of the universe appear fine-tuned to permit the existence of conscious observers, implying a deep connection between consciousness and cosmic structure. If consciousness plays a fundamental role in the manifestation of cosmic phenomena, than human awareness, and intention regarding interstellar visitors might influence their manifestation through mechanisms that operate at the foundational level of physical reality. Sacred geometry and mathematical mysticism traditions maintain that certain numerical patterns and geometric relationships possess inherent power to establish connections with cosmic intelligence networks. These traditions describe techniques for encoding intention into mathematical structures and broadcasting them through consciousness-based transmission methods that allegedly operate faster than light and across galactic distances. As we continue to encounter objects like 3I Asi, 3I As, the correlation between human spiritual and technological development and the timing of these discoveries suggests either remarkable coincidence or the operation of consciousness-based summoning mechanisms that complement and perhaps transcend our technological capabilities for detecting and studying interstellar visitors. Yet as we contemplate the various pathways through which humanity might summon or attract interstellar visitors, we must confront the sobering possibility that successful contact might bring consequences far removed from our hopes and expectations. The cosmos contains forms of intelligence and technology that could view human civilization as we view bacterial colonies, interesting perhaps, but expendable in the service of larger objectives that remain incomprehensible to lesser minds. The fundamental asymmetry inherent in any contact between technological civilizations separated by millions of years of development creates scenarios where human agency becomes largely irrelevant to outcomes. If objects like 3I Atlas represent probes or messengers from civilizations that achieved interstellar travel when Earth was still dominated by simple life forms, then any interaction occurs between entities so disparate in capability that human preferences and survival needs might not factor into alien decision-making processes. Historical precedents for contact between civilizations of vastly different technological levels offer sobering lessons about the vulnerability of less advanced societies. When European explorers encountered indigenous populations in the Americas, Africa, and Oceania, the resulting interactions typically favored the technologically superior party, regardless of the intentions or moral principles of individual participants. Superior technology, organizational capability, and understanding of natural forces created asymmetries that proved decisive even when numerical advantages favored the contacted populations. The possibility that interstellar visitors might carry biological agents, whether intentionally as weapons or accidentally as contamination, presents existential risks that humanity possesses limited capability to assess or counter. Our planet's evolutionary isolation has created biological systems with no natural defenses against pathogens that evolved under alien stellar conditions. If visitors like 3I As harbor microorganisms adapted to conditions that exist on other worlds, Earth's biosphere might prove catastrophically vulnerable to biological disruption. Psychological and social disruption could prove equally devastating even if physical contact remains limited. The confirmed existence of superior alien intelligence would fundamentally alter human understanding of our cosmic significance, potentially triggering social, religious, and political upheavals that destroy existing civilization structures. The mere knowledge that humanity occupies a subordinate position in a galactic hierarchy could produce psychological effects comparable to those experienced by cultures whose worldviews were shattered by contact with technologically superior civilizations. Advanced alien technology might operate according to principles that produce effects indistinguishable from natural disasters when viewed from human perspectives. Civilizations capable of interstellar travel likely possess energy manipulation capabilities that could trigger volcanic eruptions, seismic events, or atmospheric disturbances as inadvertent side effects of their activities. The technology required to redirect or communicate with interstellar objects might generate radiation, gravitational effects, or exotic particle emissions that prove lethal to biological systems. The temporal scales involved in interstellar contact create scenarios where human decision-making becomes meaningless. If alien civilizations operate on planning horizons measured in millions of years, human political and social institutions lack the stability and continuity necessary for meaningful negotiation or treaty arrangements. Decisions made by alien entities decades or centuries ago might determine human fate regardless of contemporary human preferences or actions. Economic and resource competition presents another category of existential risk. Civilizations capable of interstellar travel have presumably exhausted the easily accessible resources of their birth systems and expanded into interstellar space partly to access additional materials and energy sources. Earth's biosphere represents a unique concentration of complex organic compounds and rare isotopes that might prove valuable to alien technology systems, creating incentives for resource extraction that disregard human survival needs. Information hazards emerge from the possibility that contact with superior alien intelligence might expose humanity to concepts, technologies, or knowledge structures that prove psychologically or socially destructive. Human civilization has evolved to operate within certain conceptual and technological limits, and exposure to radically advanced ideas might produce cognitive or social breakdown comparable to information overflow in computer systems. The knowledge itself becomes a weapon against minds unprepared for such revelations. The militarization of contact scenarios represents perhaps the most immediate danger facing human civilization. If interstellar visitors are interpreted as threats by military institutions, the resulting defensive preparations and preemptive actions might prove more destructive than the visitors themselves. The development of planetary defense systems, space-based weapons, and exotic military technologies in response to perceived alien threats could destabilize international relations and trigger conflicts that devastate human civilization before any actual alien contact occurs. Uncontrolled technological advancement resulting from attempts to reverse engineer alien artifacts or communicate with alien intelligence systems could accelerate human development beyond the social and ethical frameworks necessary for stability and survival. The introduction of advanced technologies into human society without corresponding advances in wisdom, ethical development, and social organization has historically produced periods of tremendous disruption and suffering. The possibility of hostile or indifferent alien intelligence represents the most direct existential threat associated with successful summoning of interstellar visitors. Civilizations that have survived long enough to achieve interstellar expansion might have done so through competitive advantages that include the systematic elimination of potential rivals. The galaxy might be dominated by entities whose survival strategy involves the preemptive destruction of emerging technological civilizations before they can develop into competitors. As we continue our efforts to detect, study, and potentially contact interstellar visitors like 31 Atlas, we must develop frameworks for risk assessment and mitigation that acknowledge the possibility that successful contact might represent the end rather than the beginning of human cosmic adventure. High above Earth's atmosphere, in the region where artificial satellites trace their careful orbits through the vacuum of space, astronomers have occasionally detected objects that defy conventional explanation. These anomalous radar returns, first noted during the early decades of space exploration, display orbital characteristics that seem inconsistent with known satellite deployments or natural space debris. Among these mysteries, none has captured the imagination quite like the enigmatic object known as the Black Knight. The story begins in the 1960s, when radio astronomers monitoring Earth's orbital environment detected persistent signals from an object that appeared to follow a near-polar orbit unlike any known artificial satellite. The object's trajectory, its radio emissions, and its apparent age challenged existing understanding of human space capabilities. Calculations suggested the object had maintained stable orbit for centuries or even millennia, predating human spaceflight by margins that stretched credibility. Government tracking stations, tasked with monitoring all artificial objects in Earth orbit for military and safety purposes, found themselves unable to classify the black night within existing categories. The object displayed radar signatures consistent with artificial construction, but its orbital parameters indicated deployment during periods when no human civilization possessed the technology for satellite launch. Classification documents, partially released decades later, revealed official acknowledgement of the object's anomalous nature and the absence of satisfactory conventional explanations. Amateur radio operators around the world reported receiving strange transmissions that seemed to originate from the object S position. These signals, when analyzed, displayed characteristics that suggested artificial generation, but contained patterns that defied decoding attempts. Some researchers interpreted the transmissions as potential communication attempts, while others suggested they might represent automated systems broadcasting identification or status information according to protocols unknown to human technology. Photographic evidence, while limited and often controversial, occasionally captured images of dark objects in Earth orbit that appeared larger and more substantial than typical space debris. These photographs, taken by both professional astronomers and amateur sky watchers, showed objects that seemed to maintain controlled orientation and positioning rather than the tumbling motion expected from defunct satellites or collision fragments. The Black Knight's orbital characteristics suggested either advanced propulsion capabilities or deployment methods that exceeded known human technology. The object maintained stable altitude and orientation, despite atmospheric drag and solar radiation pressure that should have caused orbital decay and uncontrolled tumbling within years or decades. This stability implied either active station-keeping systems or initial deployment with precision that exceeded early human space technology capabilities. Attempts to establish communication with the Black Knight, conducted by both government agencies and private researchers, produced ambiguous results that neither confirmed nor eliminated the possibility of response to human signals. Some researchers reported apparent changes in the object's transmission patterns following directed communications attempts, while others found no evidence of responsive behavior. The object's behavior remained consistent with either automated systems, following preset programming, or natural phenomena, producing false impressions of artificial intelligence. The temporal coincidence between the Black Knight's apparent activation and humanity's development of radio technology raised questions about causation and purpose. If the object represented alien surveillance technology, its increased activity during the 20th century might indicate programmed responses to the emergence of technological civilization on Earth. Alternatively, the timing might reflect improved human detection capabilities rather than changes in the object's behavior. Official investigations into the Black Knight phenomenon, while never fully disclosed, apparently included attempts at physical intercept and close-range examination. Declassified documents suggest that several early space missions carried secondary objectives related to anomalous object investigation, though specific results remain classified. The technical challenges of rendezvous with an uncooperative object in high orbit would have exceeded early space program capabilities, possibly explaining the lack of definitive resolution. Connection attempts between the Black Knight and other unexplained phenomena produced intriguing correlations that suggested either systematic observation patterns or coincidental clustering of anomalous events. Some researchers noted apparent relationships between the object's orbital position and the timing of unusual atmospheric phenomena, unexplained radio signals, and reports of aerial anomalies. These correlations, while statistically interesting, remained within margins that could reflect observer bias rather than genuine causal relationships. The modern era of space surveillance, with its comprehensive tracking networks and advanced detection capabilities, has failed to provide definitive resolution of the Black Knight mystery. Contemporary satellite databases contain no objects matching the historical descriptions, leading to speculation that the phenomenon either ended was removed, or represents misidentification of conventional objects under unusual observational conditions. As humanity develops increasingly sophisticated capabilities for detecting and analyzing objects in Earth orbit and beyond, the lessons learned from investigating anomalies like the Black Night provide valuable experience for future encounters with genuinely unexplained phenomena, whether of terrestrial or interstellar origin. Deep beneath the sands of time, in layers of human history that predate our written records, lie hints of encounters between ancient civilizations and visitors from the cosmic deep. Archaeological evidence, mythological traditions, and anomalous artifacts suggest that previous iterations of human culture may have developed capabilities we have only recently begun to rediscover, including the ability to detect, communicate with, and possibly summon objects from interstellar space. The Vedic literature of ancient India contains detailed descriptions of astronomical phenomena that suggest sophisticated understanding of cosmic mechanics thousands of years before the development of telescopes or mathematical astronomy. These texts describe vimanas, flying vehicles that traveled between star systems, and detail encounters with entities who arrived from specific stellar regions. The technical specifications provided for these craft include propulsion methods, navigation systems, and materials that parallel theoretical concepts in modern aerospace engineering. Archaeological sites around the world display construction techniques and astronomical alignments that appear to exceed the technological capabilities attributed to their builders by conventional historical timelines. The precision of stonework at sites like Puma Punku in Bolivia, the sophisticated astronomical alignments of structures like Stonehenge and the Giza pyramids, and the global distribution of similar construction techniques suggest the possibility of technological knowledge that was subsequently lost during periods of civilizational collapse. Ancient Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky and possessed advanced technology that enabled them to traverse the void between worlds. These accounts provide detailed descriptions of spacecraft, communication methods, and genetic manipulation techniques that align surprisingly well with modern scientific understanding of the requirements for interstellar travel and biological engineering. The consistency of these descriptions across multiple independent sources suggests either shared mythological traditions or memories of actual historical events. The mystery of megalithic construction techniques remains unresolved despite centuries of archaeological investigation. The precision with which massive stone blocks were cut, transported, and assembled at sites worldwide suggests access to technologies that conventional history cannot explain. Some researchers propose that these civilizations possessed acoustic or electromagnetic manipulation capabilities that enabled control over gravitational forces, making possible the construction achievements that remain challenging, even with modern equipment. Astronomical alignments encoded in ancient architecture demonstrate knowledge of celestial mechanics that appears to exceed the observational capabilities available to prehistoric cultures. The builders of these structures possess detailed understanding of precession cycles, stellar positions, and planetary motions that required sustained observation and mathematical analysis across multiple generations. This knowledge suggests civilizations with greater technological sophistication and institutional continuity than the convention history recognizes. Ancient maps, such as the Piri Reis chart and other portolans, display geographical knowledge that seems to predate the official periods of exploration and mapping. These documents show coastlines, islands, and continental features that were supposedly unknown to the civilizations that created them, suggesting either advanced exploration capabilities or access to information from external sources. Some researchers interpret these maps as evidence of contact with entities possessing global or even satellite-based observational capabilities. The global distribution of similar symbolic and artistic motifs in cultures that had no known contact with each other suggests either common origins or shared experiences that transcended geographical limitations. Serpent imagery, spiral patterns, and celestial symbols appear consistently across diverse cultural contexts, often associated with stories of sky gods or star visitors. These shared elements might reflect universal psychological archetypes or collective memories of actual encounters with interstellar entities. Genetic studies of human populations reveal periodic episodes of rapid evolution and population expansion that correlate temporally with periods of technological innovation and cultural development. Some researchers suggest these evolutionary accelerations might reflect external genetic influences introduced through contact with technologically advanced entities. The timing of these genetic changes often coincides with the emergence of new technologies and cultural practices that appear without clear developmental antecedents. Ancient ritual practices associated with astronomy and sky observation often include specific protocols for communication with or summoning of celestial entities. These rituals, preserved in various forms across multiple cultures, describe techniques for establishing contact with sky gods or star beings through combinations of timing, location, symbols, and consciousness-altering practices. The consistency of these protocols suggests either shared cultural transmission or independent development of effective communication methods. The cyclical nature of civilizational rise and collapse might reflect periodic interactions with interstellar visitors who influence human development according to long-term patterns that transcend individual civilizational lifespans. If advanced alien civilizations monitor and occasionally intervene in human development, they might operate on timescales that encompass multiple rises and falls of terrestrial civilization, creating historical patterns that appear natural but actually reflect external guidance or interference. Artifacts and technologies that appear to be anachronistic within their historical contexts continue to emerge from archaeological sites worldwide. These objects, often dismissed as modern contamination or misidentified conventional items, occasionally display characteristics that suggest more advanced manufacturing techniques or materials, science than conventional history attributes to their cultures of origin. Careful analysis of these artifacts might reveal evidence of technological transfer from external sources. As we encounter interstellar visitors like 3I, ICR, modern Irae, we might benefit from investigating whether similar objects were detected, studied, or even summoned by previous civilizations, whose capabilities we have underestimated and whose knowledge we have forgotten during the dark ages that separate us from humanity's deeper past. Within the name itself lies a resonance that reaches across millennia of human memory and myth. Atlas, the designation given to our mysterious interstellar visitor, echoes the ancient Greek titan who bore upon his shoulders the weight of the heavens, who stood at the edge of the known world where ocean met sky, and whose very name became synonymous with maps and the cataloging of distant places. This linguistic coincidence, if indeed it is coincidence, connects our modern encounter with cosmic wanderers to humanity's oldest stories about beings who mediated between earthly and celestial realms. The mythological Atlas was condemned by Zeus to hold up the celestial sphere, positioned at the western edge of the world where the sun completed its daily journey. Ancient sources describe him as possessing knowledge of the depths of the sea and the movements of the stars, wisdom that encompassed both terrestrial geography and cosmic mechanics. His daughter, the Pleiades, became a star cluster that served as a celestial calendar for ancient navigators, while his brother Prometheus brought fire from the gods to humanity, representing the transfer of advanced knowledge from celestial to terrestrial realms. Plato's account of Atlantis, the lost civilization that allegedly existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules in the Atlantic Ocean named for Atlas, himself describes a technologically advanced society that possessed capabilities exceeding those of contemporary civilizations. This Atlantean empire supposedly maintained contact with the gods, possessed flying vehicles, and wielded energy technologies that enabled them to reshape landscapes and control natural forces. Their ultimate destruction came through catastrophic geological events that sank their continent beneath the waves. The temporal scale of Atlantean chronology, as described by Plato, places the civilization's peak approximately 11,000 years ago, a period that coincides with the end of the last ice age and significant global climate transitions. Archaeological evidence suggests that this period witnessed rapid technological development and the emergence of sophisticated architectural and astronomical capabilities in cultures worldwide. The correlation between mythological accounts and geological evidence suggests that stories of Atlantis might preserve memories of actual historical civilizations that achieved greater technological sophistication than conventional history acknowledges. Ancient sources describe Atlantean technology in terms that parallel modern theoretical concepts for interstellar travel and communication. The civilization allegedly possessed crystals that could generate and focus energy across vast distances, vehicles that traveled through air and space without visible propulsion, and communication systems that enabled instantaneous contact across global distances. These descriptions, while obviously filtered through ancient understanding and mythological interpretation, show remarkable consistency with the technological requirements for detecting, communicating with, and potentially summoning interstellar objects. The destruction of Atlantis, according to various accounts, involved not merely geological catastrophe, but also what some sources describe as divine punishment for the civilization's attempts to communicate with or summon entities from the stars. These stories suggest that Atlantean technology included capabilities for interstellar contact, attracted unwanted attention from cosmic entities whose intentions proved hostile to human civilization. The catastrophic end of Atlantis might represent an early example of the risks associated with successful cosmic summoning. Geographic anomalies in the Atlantic Ocean basin continue to puzzle researchers investigating the possible historical reality behind Atlantean legends. Underwater formations that appear to show artificial construction, magnetic anomalies that affect navigation instruments, and geological structures that seem inconsistent with normal seabed formation processes suggest the possibility of substantial artificial modifications to the ocean floor in the distant past. These features, while not definitively proving the existence of an advanced prehistoric civilization, demonstrate that significant unknowns remain in our understanding of human technological history. The global distribution of flood myths and legends describing the destruction of advanced prehistoric civilizations suggests that the Atlantis story might represent one version of widespread cultural memories about catastrophic events that ended earlier phases of human development. These myths consistently describe civilizations that possessed advanced technology, maintained contact with sky gods or star beings, and were ultimately destroyed through combinations of natural disasters and divine intervention. The consistency of these accounts across cultures that had no known contact suggests either shared psychological archetypes or collective memories of actual historical events. Ancient maps and geographical texts that predate the official European age of exploration sometimes include references to large islands or continents in the Atlantic Ocean that do not appear on modern charts. These cartographic anomalies might represent copying errors or imaginative extrapolation, but they could also preserve geographical knowledge about land masses that existed during periods of different sea levels or geological configurations. Some researchers suggest these maps might derive from Atlantean or other prehistoric sources that possessed global geographical knowledge. The symbolic connections between Atlantis, and our modern interstellar visitor, 3.1 Atlas, extend beyond mere linguistic coincidence to encompass deeper themes about humanity's relationship with cosmic forces and the risks associated with reaching beyond terrestrial limitations. The mythological Atlas bore the weight of heaven itself, while the interstellar Atlas carries within its structure information about stellar systems beyond our Sun. Both represent connections between earthly and celestial realms, bridges across cosmic distances that carry both knowledge and danger. Modern attempts to locate can study evidence of Atlantean civilization parallel our efforts to detect and analyze interstellar visitors. Both enterprises involve sophisticated technology deployed in the search for anomalous objects that might reveal information about capabilities and knowledge systems that transcend our current understanding. The tools we use to study 3I Avil Solis radio telescopes, spectroscopic analysis, trajectory modeling represent advanced versions of the same human impulse that drives underwater exploration, and archaeological investigation of allegedly mythical civilizations. As we continue to study our cosmic visitor atlas, we might consider whether its arrival represents not merely random gravitational dynamics, but a continuation of ancient patterns of contact between human civilization and entities from the celestial realm, patterns that previous civilizations might have understood better than we do, but which they pursued at costs that ultimately proved catastrophic. Yet beneath our fascination with cosmic visitors lurks a darker possibility that successful summoning of interstellar objects might serve as a mechanism for catastrophic events that reset human civilization periodically, erasing accumulated knowledge and forcing humanity to rebuild from primitive foundations. Archaeological and geological evidence suggests that Earth has experienced multiple episodes of rapid environmental change and civilizational collapse that coincide temporally with increased extraterrestrial impact activity and unusual celestial phenomena. The Younger Dryas period, approximately 12,800 years ago, marked a sudden return to Ice Age conditions after millennia of warming climate. This climatic reversal, which lasted over 1,000 years, coincided with the extinction of numerous megafauna species and the collapse of several advanced prehistoric cultures. Recent research suggests that this environmental catastrophe might have resulted from multiple cosmic impacts that destabilized atmospheric and oceanic circulation patterns. The timing correlates with mythological accounts of global flood events and the destruction of advanced civilizations. Mass extinction events throughout geological history show patterns that suggest external causation rather than gradual environmental change. The most famous example, the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction that eliminated non-avian dinosaurs, clearly resulted from asteroid impact, but similar patterns appear throughout the fossil record at intervals that might reflect periodic encounters with interstellar objects or passage through regions of space with higher collision probabilities. These cycles of destruction and renewal might represent natural consequences of our solar system's movement through the galaxy. Ancient historical records describe periods of unusual celestial activity that preceded major civilizational collapses. The Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE, which saw the simultaneous destruction of multiple advanced civilizations around the Mediterranean, occurred during a period of increased comet activity and unusual atmospheric phenomena described in surviving texts. Similar correlations appear during the fall of the Roman Empire, the collapse of classical Mayan civilization, and other episodes of rapid social and technological regression. The phenomenon of cultural reset, the sudden loss of advanced knowledge and technological capabilities, appears repeatedly throughout human history in ways that suggest external causation rather than internal social dynamics alone. Civilizations that possessed sophisticated understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering suddenly reverted to much simpler technological levels, as if their knowledge base had been deliberately erased or their educational institutions systematically destroyed. These reversals often coincide with reports of unusual celestial events or divine interventions. Modern impact research reveals that Earth experiences significant cosmic bombardment events far more frequently than previously understood. The Tunguska explosion of 1908, the Chelyabinsk meteor of 2013, and numerous crater-forming impacts detected through satellite Surveys suggest that potentially civilization-threatening cosmic events occur on timescales measured in centuries rather than millions of years. If some of these impacts result from interstellar objects rather than solar system debris, then humanity's growing capability to detect and potentially summon such visitors might increase rather than decrease our exposure to catastrophic risk. The biological effects of cosmic radiation and exotic materials introduced through interstellar object impacts could trigger pandemic events that exceed any disease outbreak in recorded history. Earth's biosphere has evolved in relative isolation from the galactic biological environment, leaving terrestrial life forms vulnerable to pathogens or toxic compounds that evolved under alien stellar conditions. If interstellar visitors like 3I us carry biological materials from their origin systems, their arrival could introduce organisms or chemical compounds that prove catastrophically incompatible with Earth's ecosystem. Electromagnetic effects associated with cosmic visitor approaches might disrupt technological infrastructure in ways that produce civilizational collapse even without direct physical impact. Advanced alien technology, or even natural phenomena associated with interstellar objects, might generate electromagnetic pulses, gravitational anomalies, or exotic radiation that destroys electronic systems and renders modern technological civilization non-functional. The resulting social chaos and infrastructure failure could produce population crashes and knowledge loss, comparable to those seen during historical dark ages. Psychological and social disruption resulting from confirmed contact with superior alien intelligence might prove as destructive as physical catastrophe. Human civilization depends on shared beliefs about cosmic significance, divine purpose, and technological progress that could be shattered by definitive proof of humanity as subordinate position in a galactic hierarchy. The resulting crisis of meaning might trigger social breakdown, religious warfare, and institutional collapse that destroys civilization's capacity for knowledge preservation and technological maintenance. The possibility that interstellar visitors represent not random cosmic debris, but elements of a deliberate galactic management system raises the most disturbing questions about the relationship between cosmic contact and civilizational catastrophe. If advanced alien civilizations monitor developing worlds and periodically intervene to prevent excessive technological advancement, they might use cosmic impacts or other catastrophic events as tools for population control and cultural reset. Humanity's emergence as a spacefaring civilization might trigger automated response systems designed to prevent potential competitors from achieving interstellar capabilities. Pattern analysis of historical catastrophes suggests that major civilizational collapses occur with statistical regularities that exceed random chance, particularly when correlated with astronomical events and cycles. The approximately 1,200-year intervals between major social collapses, the clustering of extinction events around specific geological periods, and the correlation between technological advancement periods and subsequent dark ages all suggest the operation of systematic rather than random destructive forces. Military strategists and disaster planning organizations have begun to recognize that cosmic visitor events represent potential vectors for catastrophic infrastructure failure and social disruption. Unlike terrestrial disasters, which affect limited geographical regions and can be addressed through mutual aid between unaffected areas, cosmic events could produce global effects that overwhelm all existing emergency response capabilities simultaneously. The absence of backup systems and redundant infrastructure capable of surviving such events leaves human civilization vulnerable to complete technological collapse. As we develop increasingly sophisticated capabilities for detecting, studying, and potentially summoning interstellar visitors like 3I Atlas, we must consider whether these same capabilities might increase our exposure to catastrophic risks that previous civilizations encountered when they achieved similar technological thresholds. The shadow of catastrophe that has haunted human history might be directly related to our species. persistent attempts to reach beyond terrestrial limitations and establish contact with the cosmic realm. But what if the greatest mystery surrounding interstellar visitors like 31 LES, not in their composition or origins, but in the possibility that they represent elements of a vast surveillance network, maintained by intelligences that have monitored our solar system for eons? The concept of galactic civilizations maintaining observation posts and monitoring systems throughout their territorial domains provides a framework for understanding the timing, characteristics, and behavior of interstellar objects that transcends simple gravitational explanations. The statistical improbability of detecting multiple interstellar visitors during the brief span of human technological development suggests either remarkable coincidence or systematic observation by entities that time their visibility to coincide with target civilizations. Emergence into space awareness. If advanced alien civilizations monitor developing worlds, they would require information-gathering systems that could observe planetary environments and technological progress across interstellar distances without revealing their presence to primitive detection systems. Stealth technology concepts that remain theoretical for human engineering might represent basic capabilities for civilizations advanced enough to achieve interstellar travel. Objects designed to avoid detection by developing civilizations could remain invisible to primitive sensors while maintaining sophisticated observation and communication systems. The apparent breakdown or activation of such stealth systems as objects approach star systems might explain the sudden visibility of visitors like Oumuamua, 2I Borisov, and 3I Aleus after millions of years of undetected interstellar travel. The fragmentation pattern observed in 3I Aleus takes on ominous significance when viewed as potential evidence of surveillance system activation rather than natural breakdown. Instead of structural failure under solar heating, the object's disintegration might represent the deployment of multiple smaller observation platforms, each designed to monitor different aspects of the target system's development. The synchronized separation of components and their continued coherent behavior would be consistent with planned deployment rather than random destruction. Communication patterns between observation posts and their controlling civilizations would necessarily operate on timescales that exceed human planning horizons. Instructions transmitted across interstellar distances require years or decades to reach their destinations, meaning that surveillance systems must operate with substantial autonomy and predetermined response protocols. The apparently random nature of interstellar visitor behavior might reflect the execution of complex programming that responds to specific trigger conditions in the monitored system as development. The diversity of interstellar objects detected thus far, from the cigar-shaped Oumuamua to the comet-like 2I Borisov to the fragmenting 31F Kilianteles might represent different classes of surveillance technology optimized for different observation missions. Each visitor could carry specialized sensor packages designed to gather specific types of information about planetary environments, technological development, or biological evolution. The apparent naturalness of their compositions might represent sophisticated camouflage designed to avoid detection by primitive civilizations. Advanced surveillance technology might operate through principles that remain beyond human understanding, utilizing quantum effects, gravitational manipulation, or exotic matter interactions that leave minimal signatures detectable by current instruments. The objects we identify as interstellar visitors might represent only the visible components of much larger monitoring systems that remain invisible to our detection methods. Each confirmed visitor might be accompanied by numerous additional objects that operate below our current detection thresholds. The timing of surveillance system activation might be triggered by specific technological milestones achieved by monitored civilizations. Humanity's development of radio transmission, nuclear weapons, space travel, and computer networks might represent predetermined trigger points that activate different levels of observation protocols. The recent detection of multiple interstellar visitors could indicate that human civilization has crossed thresholds that warrant increased scrutiny from galactic monitoring systems. Information collected by surveillance networks would presumably be transmitted back to controlling civilizations through communication. Methods that transcend electromagnetic limitations, quantum entanglement, gravitational wave modulation, or exotic particle transmission might enable real-time communication across galactic distances, allowing monitoring civilizations to receive continuous updates about developments in observed systems. Such communication methods would remain invisible to civilizations that have not yet discovered the relevant physics. The concept of galactic territorial management suggests that advanced civilizations might maintain systematic observation of all star systems within their spheres of influence, monitoring for the emergence of potential competitors or allies. Earth as location within what might be considered the territorial domain of a specific galactic civilization could explain the apparent systematic nature of interstellar visitor encounters. Our solar system might represent one of thousands or millions of systems under continuous surveillance by entities whose territorial boundaries encompass substantial portions of the galaxy. Surveillance protocols might include predetermined interventions that trigger active response when monitored civilizations achieve specific capabilities or display particular behavioral patterns. The development of nuclear weapons, the beginning of space exploration, or the transmission of radio signals might activate intervention protocols that range from increased observation to active interference or contact. The escalating strangeness of recent interstellar visitor behavior might reflect the implementation of more intensive observation or preparation for active intervention. The long-term objectives of galactic surveillance networks remain necessarily opaque to observe civilizations, but might include resource management, territorial security, biological diversity preservation, or the cultivation of useful tributary cultures. Advanced civilizations with lifespans measured in millions of years might view developing worlds as strategic assets to be managed and harvested, according to timescales that transcend the entire history of human civilization. Counter-surveillance capabilities remain beyond current human technology, but might become necessary if we wish to develop spacefaring civilization without constant external monitoring. The detection and analysis of interstellar visitors represents humanity's first tentative steps toward understanding the surveillance environment in which we exist, but true independence would require capabilities for detecting, analyzing, and potentially defeating monitoring systems that currently remain invisible to our instruments. As we continue to encounter objects like 3-1 Atlas, we must consider the possibility that we are not merely studying random cosmic debris, but examining the monitoring equipment of intelligences that have watched our world since before our species achieved consciousness and who continue to evaluate our development according to criteria and objectives that remain utterly beyond our comprehension. November 14th, 2022 began like any other day across the globe, with commuters hurrying to work beneath clear skies and weather patterns following their predictable seasonal rhythms. Then, at precisely 11:47 GMT, a sound unlike anything in recorded human experience began to emanate from the sky itself. Not thunder, not the roar of aircraft, but a deep, resonant tone that seemed to emerge from the very fabric of the atmosphere and penetrate to the bone. The phenomenon began simultaneously across multiple continents, defying the physics of sound propagation across global distances. In London, office workers paused at their desks as windows vibrated with harmonics that made coffee cups dance on their surfaces. In Tokyo, the morning rush hour ground to a halt as subway tunnels filled with reverberations that seemed to come from overhead despite being deep underground. In New York, the cacophony of urban life fell silent as millions of people looked skyward at a source of sound that remained invisible to all observation. Seismological stations worldwide registered the event, but their readings defied conventional interpretation. The vibrations appeared to originate not from terrestrial sources, but from the atmosphere itself, as if the air had become a vast musical instrument suddenly struck by an unseen cosmic hand. The frequency analysis revealed complex harmonic structures that followed mathematical patterns found in theoretical physics, but never before observed in natural phenomena. Radio observatories detected correlated electromagnetic anomalies that accompanied the acoustic event. The signals displayed characteristics similar to those observed during the passage of interstellar objects, but with intensity levels that exceeded any previous detection by orders of magnitude. The electromagnetic signatures seemed to pulse in synchronization with the atmospheric acoustic phenomenon, suggesting a connection between visible cosmic visitors and the mysterious global sound event. Military installations with sensitive acoustic monitoring equipment designed to detect atmospheric nuclear explosions found their systems overwhelmed by signal strengths that pushed their instruments beyond design parameters. The sound possessed characteristics that resembled no known natural or artificial phenomenon, displaying frequency patterns that seemed engineered rather than random. Defense analysts struggled to classify the event within existing threat assessment frameworks. Religious and spiritual communities worldwide interpreted the phenomenon as fulfillment of various prophetic traditions that described cosmic trumpets or divine voices that would herald significant transitions in human history. Churches, temples, and mosques filled with people seeking explanation and comfort as the sound continued for nearly 6 hours before gradually fading to silence. The universal recognition of the event's significance transcended cultural and religious boundaries. Amateur astronomers and citizen scientists mobilized sophisticated observation networks to search for visible sources of the phenomenon, but their efforts revealed no obvious cosmic trigger. The timing coincided with no known meteor showers, solar events, or artificial satellite activities. Deep sky observations showed normal stellar positions and movements, yet the acoustic event clearly originated from beyond Earth's surface atmosphere. Scientific analysis revealed that the sound carried information content that exceeded random noise, displaying patterns that suggested encoding methods beyond current human understanding. Computer analysis of the frequency structures revealed mathematical relationships that paralleled those found in certain theoretical frameworks for interstellar communication, leading some researchers to speculate that the event might represent an attempted message from non-terrestrial intelligence. The global nature of the phenomenon challenged conventional understanding of atmospheric acoustics and electromagnetic propagation. Sound waves cannot typically travel across oceanic distances while maintaining coherence and synchronization, yet the event displayed precisely such characteristics. The underlying physics appeared to operate according to principles that remained beyond current scientific explanation, suggesting either unknown natural phenomena or artificial generation by entities possessing advanced technology. Internet forums and social media platforms filled with recordings, analysis, and speculation about the event's significance. The consistent reports from around the world eliminated the possibility of localized phenomena or mass hallucination, while the absence of obvious explanations fueled theories ranging from military testing to alien communication attempts. The democratic nature of modern information sharing ensured that no official suppression of information could prevent global awareness of the phenomenon. Follow-up investigations by government agencies and international organizations failed to identify conventional sources for the event. Weather modification experiments, atmospheric research programs, and military testing activities all proved inadequate to explain the global scale and unusual characteristics of the phenomenon. The official conclusion of atmospheric anomaly of unknown origin satisfied no one and fueled continued speculation about exotic causation. 3 days after the initial event, long-range telescopes detected a small object departing the outer solar system at velocities consistent with interstellar trajectory. The object's path and timing suggested possible correlation with the atmospheric acoustic phenomenon, though the distances involved made direct causation seemingly impossible according to known physics. The object's rapid departure prevented detailed analysis, leaving only the memory of its passage and the mystery of the day the sky sang with voices from beyond the stars. The event left lasting impacts on human consciousness and scientific inquiry, marking a threshold moment when the possibility of contact with non-terrestrial intelligence moved from speculation to serious consideration by mainstream institutions and ordinary people worldwide. At the deepest level, humanity's persistent impulse to summon entities from beyond familiar boundaries reflects fundamental questions about consciousness, agency, and the nature of reality itself. The act of summoning, whether directed toward gods, spirits, or interstellar visitors, represents an assertion that consciousness possesses causal efficacy that transcends the mechanistic limitations of material interaction. It embodies the profound human conviction that mind can influence matter across distances and conditions that defy conventional physical explanation. The philosophical foundations of summoning rest on assumptions about the nature of consciousness that challenge materialist interpretations of reality. If consciousness emerges merely from complex arrangements of matter and energy, then its influence should be limited to local effects mediated through conventional physical forces. Yet summoning traditions across cultures maintain that conscious intention can establish connections and produce effects that operate independently of material constraints, suggesting either that consciousness possesses properties unknown to current science, or that reality itself operates according to principles that transcend purely physical causation. The desire to summon reflects humanity's deep-seated rejection of cosmic isolation and insignificance. Faced with a universe that appears overwhelmingly empty of obvious intelligence and meaning, human consciousness reaches beyond material limitations to establish connections with entities that might provide purpose, guidance, or simply companionship across the vast emptiness of space and time. The act of summoning becomes a declaration of faith that consciousness is not merely an accidental byproduct of material processes, but a fundamental feature of reality that enables genuine connection between minds across impossible distances. Quantum mechanics provides tantalizing hints that consciousness might indeed play a fundamental role in the manifestation of physical reality. The observer effect demonstrates that conscious observation affects the behavior of quantum systems, while quantum entanglement suggests that separated systems can maintain instantaneous correlations that transcend space-time limitations. These phenomena remain poorly understood, but they suggest that consciousness and physical reality might be more intimately connected than classical physics assumed, providing possible mechanisms through which conscious intention might influence distant events. The anthropic principle in cosmology reveals that the fundamental constants of the universe appear precisely tuned to enable the existence of conscious observers. This apparent fine-tuning suggests either remarkable coincidence or deep connections between consciousness and the basic structure of reality. If consciousness plays a fundamental role in cosmic evolution and structure, then conscious acts like summoning might operate through mechanisms that remain hidden from scientific observation, but nevertheless influence the probability and characteristics of apparently random events. Religious and mystical traditions consistently describe techniques for establishing conscious connection with entities and forces that exist beyond the material world. These practices, developed independently across diverse cultural contexts, show remarkable consistency in their basic approaches: altered states of consciousness, focused intention, ritual actions designed to establish sympathetic connections with target entities. The universality of these techniques suggests either shared psychological patterns or genuine effectiveness in establishing non-local conscious connections. The philosophical implications of successful cosmic summoning would revolutionize human understanding of consciousness, causality, and cosmic purpose. If human intention can influence the behavior or timing of interstellar visitors, then consciousness possesses causal powers that transcend known physical forces. If cosmic entities respond to human summoning attempts, then the universe contains forms of intelligence that exist in systematic relationship with human consciousness. Both possibilities would require fundamental revisions to materialist worldviews and scientific methodologies. The ethical dimensions of summoning raise profound questions about responsibility and consequence. If consciousness can indeed influence cosmic events, then human intentions and actions carry weight that extends far beyond their immediate material effects. The collective intentions of human civilization might influence not only our local environment, but the broader cosmic context in which we exist. This possibility places enormous moral responsibility on humanity to develop wisdom and ethical frameworks commensurate with our potential cosmic influence. The relationship between individual and collective consciousness in summoning activities highlights questions about the nature of human identity and agency. Traditional summoning practices often emphasize the power of group intention and synchronized action, suggesting that human consciousness might possess emergent properties that transcend individual minds. If human civilization can function as a collective conscious entity, then our species' relationship with cosmic visitors might represent communication between different forms of collective intelligence operating on vastly different scales. The temporal aspects of summoning, the fact that conscious intention directed toward future events might influence their probability of occurrence, challenge linear conceptions of time and causality. If summoning operates through retrocausal effects or probability manipulation, then human consciousness might influence past events as readily as future ones. This possibility suggests that the timing of interstellar visitor encounters might be influenced by intentions that have not yet been consciously formulated, creating complex feedback loops between intention and manifestation. Modern physics descriptions of reality as information processing rather than material interaction provide conceptual frameworks for understanding how consciousness might influence cosmic events through information theoretic rather than energetic mechanisms. If reality consists fundamentally of information patterns rather than material substances, then consciousness, as an information processing system, might interact directly with cosmic information structures without requiring material intermediation. Summoning would operate through information exchange rather than force application. The evolutionary implications of summoning capabilities suggest that consciousness might have developed as a cosmic communication system rather than merely a survival tool for individual organisms. If consciousness enables connection with cosmic intelligence networks, then its evolution represents adaptation to galactic rather than terrestrial environmental pressures. Human consciousness might be developing toward capabilities that will enable full participation in galactic civilization networks that currently remain beyond our detection or comprehension. As we encounter interstellar visitors like 3I Atlas and contemplate the possibility of summoning similar objects through technological or consciousness-based methods, we engage fundamental questions about the nature of mind reality and humanity's cosmic role that will determine the trajectory of our species' development across astronomical timescales. Perhaps our ancient stories were never mere fiction, but encoded memories of actual encounters with cosmic visitors, accounts of real events transmitted across millennia through the only information storage system available to pre-literate civilizations. If myths preserve historical truth beneath layers of symbolic interpretation and cultural translation, then our modern encounters with interstellar objects like 31A Tides might represent the return of entities that previous human civilizations knew intimately and feared profoundly. The Greek myth of Phaethon describes a young man who attempted to drive the chariot of the sun across the sky, but lost control, causing the vehicle to career wildly through the heavens before crashing to earth in flames. Ancient sources describe this event as causing widespread destruction, scorching the land, and creating the Sahara Desert. Modern analysis of this story reveals details consistent with a large cosmic impact event, the approach of a bright object from space, its erratic trajectory, and the resulting environmental catastrophe. Norse mythology preserves the account of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods marked by cosmic battles fought across the sky between forces of order and chaos. And myths describe serpents that encircle the world, wolves that devour the sun and moon, and a final conflagration that destroys the existing cosmic order before enabling the birth of a new world. These images might encode memories of comet swarms, asteroid impacts, or encounters with interstellar objects that produced global environmental changes and the collapse of Bronze Age civilizations. Hindu cosmology describes cycles of creation and destruction spanning millions of years, with each kalpa ending in cosmic dissolution, triggered by the intervention of celestial entities. The Vedic literature contains detailed descriptions of Vimanas, flying vehicles operated by the gods that traveled between star systems and occasionally intervened in terrestrial affairs. These accounts include technical specifications for propulsion systems, weaponry, and navigation methods that parallel theoretical concepts in modern aerospace engineering. Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime stories describe the creation of landscape features through the actions of ancestral beings who traveled across the land and sky in prescribed patterns. Many of these stories include descriptions of objects falling from the sky, creating craters, changing the courses of rivers, and establishing sacred sites that remain important to traditional culture. The correlation between Dreamtime stories and actual geological features suggests that these myths might preserve accurate information about cosmic impact events that shaped the Australian landscape. Mayan codices describe the cyclic destruction and recreation of the world through interventions by sky gods who wielded cosmic forces beyond human comprehension. The precise astronomical calculations embedded in Mayan calendar systems suggest intimate knowledge of celestial mechanics that enabled prediction of cosmic events across vast timescales. The Maya might have developed this knowledge through direct observation of recurring cosmic visitors that followed predictable orbital patterns spanning millennia. Chinese historical records dating back over 3,000 years contain detailed accounts of guest stars and unusual celestial phenomena that appeared without warning and influenced terrestrial events. These records, maintained with bureaucratic precision across multiple dynasties, describe objects that moved contrary to normal celestial patterns and sometimes fragmented or changed brightness in ways that match modern observations of interstellar visitors. The Chinese may have maintained systematic observation programs designed to track and predict the arrival of cosmic entities. Egyptian mythology describes the god Thoth arriving from the stars to bring knowledge of writing, mathematics, and astronomy to human civilization. The precision of Egyptian astronomical alignments and their sophisticated understanding of precession cycles suggest access to information that exceeded their apparent technological capabilities. The myth of Thoth might preserve memories of actual contact with entities who possessed advanced knowledge and shared it with developing human civilization. Mesopotamian texts describe the Anunnaki as beings who came from the sky and established human civilization through genetic manipulation and technological transfer. These accounts provide specific details about spacecraft, communication methods, and terraforming activities that align surprisingly well with modern scientific understanding of the requirements for interstellar colonization. The consistency of Mesopotamian records across multiple cultures and time periods suggests they might preserve historical rather than purely mythological information. Pacific Islander navigation traditions include stories about sky paths and stellar roads that connect different island groups across vast ocean distances. These traditions describe periodic visits by entities who traveled along these celestial highways and provided navigation knowledge that enabled Polynesian expansion across the Pacific. The mathematical precision of traditional navigation methods suggests that these stories might encode actual information about cosmic transportation networks. African traditional stories describe visitors from the sky who established human civilization, and promised to return during times of great need. The Dogon people of Mali possessed detailed knowledge about the Sirius star system, including information about stellar companions that remained invisible to telescopes until the 20th century. This knowledge might have been preserved from earlier contact with entities who possessed advanced astronomical capabilities. The global distribution of flood myths and catastrophe stories suggests that human civilization has experienced multiple episodes of destruction caused by cosmic events. These myths consistently describe the intervention of sky gods or stellar entities in terrestrial affairs, followed by environmental catastrophe and the near extinction of human civilization. The correlation between mythological accounts and geological evidence for cosmic impact events suggests that these stories preserve accurate historical information about humanity's relationship with cosmic visitors. Modern analysis of mythological patterns reveals mathematical and astronomical relationships that exceed the theoretical knowledge available to the cultures that created them. The precession of equinoxes, stellar motion patterns, and galactic mechanics appear encoded in stories that were supposedly created by pre-scientific civilizations. These embedded astronomical facts suggest that myths might serve as information storage systems that preserve technical knowledge across dark ages when formal education systems collapse. As we encounter interstellar visitors in our modern era, we might benefit from re-examining our mythological heritage, not as primitive superstition, but as historical documentation of previous encounters with cosmic entities whose return our ancient ancestors both anticipated and feared. Imagine for a moment that humanity succeeds in developing the technological or consciousness-based capabilities necessary to actively summon an object like 3-1 Alientilies to call it back from its trajectory toward interstellar space and redirect it toward Earth for close examination and potential contact. Such an achievement would represent the culmination of our species' ancient dream of commanding cosmic forces. But it would also confront us with consequences that we are psychologically, socially, and technologically unprepared to handle. The first challenge would be definitively confirming that the object had indeed responded to human summoning rather than following a trajectory determined by natural gravitational forces. Given the vast timescales and distances involved in interstellar object motion, distinguishing between coincidental course corrections and genuine response to human influence would require observational precision and theoretical understanding that pushes the boundaries of our current capabilities. The uncertainty itself would divide scientific communities and political institutions, creating conflicts that could undermine humanity's ability to respond coherently to the visitor's approach. If successful summoning were confirmed, the global implications would extend far beyond scientific discovery into realms of geopolitical strategy, economic disruption, and social transformation. Nations and organizations that possessed summoning capabilities would wield power that transcends terrestrial limitations, potentially destabilizing existing international systems and triggering conflicts over control of cosmic communication technologies. The entity or group that could command interstellar visitors would possess strategic advantages that could reshape global power structures within decades. The visitor's response to human summoning might reveal intelligence and technologies that operate according to principles completely alien to human understanding. Instead of passive compliance with human intentions, 3-1 Atlas might demonstrate autonomous decision-making capabilities, advanced propulsion systems, or communication methods that force fundamental revisions to our understanding of consciousness, physics, and cosmic civilization. The object might prove to be not merely a rock from space, but a sophisticated entity with its own agenda and objectives. Close examination of a successfully summoned interstellar visitor could expose humanity to biological, technological, or informational hazards that exceed our capacity for containment or mitigation. The object might carry pathogens evolved under alien stellar conditions, exotic materials that prove toxic to terrestrial biology, or information systems that disrupt human consciousness or technological infrastructure. Our eagerness to study the visitor might expose us to risks that prove catastrophic for human civilization. The act of successful summoning might trigger responses from other cosmic entities that have been monitoring human development but had not previously intervened actively. If 3I Atlas represents part of a larger network of interstellar objects or intelligences, demonstrating the ability to command such entities might activate automatic defense protocols or alert higher-level intelligences to humanity as emergence as a potentially significant cosmic factor. We might discover that summoning one visitor results in the arrival of many others whose intentions prove less benign. Economic and social disruption resulting from confirmed cosmic contact could prove as destructive as direct physical threats. The knowledge that humanity possesses the capability to summon interstellar visitors would fundamentally alter assumptions about technological progress, cosmic significance, and future possibilities that underlie existing social institutions. Financial markets, religious organizations, and political systems might collapse under the weight of implications that exceed their adaptive capacity. The technological requirements for successful summoning might themselves pose existential risks to human civilization. The energy systems, artificial intelligence networks, and exotic physics applications necessary to influence interstellar objects could prove inherently unstable or vulnerable to catastrophic failure. The infrastructure required for cosmic summoning might create technological dependencies that prove impossible to maintain safely over extended periods. International cooperation requirements for managing summoned cosmic visitors might exceed humanity as current capacity for global coordination and peaceful collaboration. The visitor's approach would occur over timescales spanning years or decades, requiring sustained international cooperation during periods that might include wars, economic crises, and political upheavals. The failure of international cooperation during critical phases of visitor management could result in missed opportunities or dangerous mishandling of cosmic contact. The psychological impact of successful cosmic summoning on human consciousness and culture would likely prove transformative in ways that cannot be predicted or controlled, confirming that human consciousness or technology can influence cosmic events would validate worldviews and possibilities that most people currently regard as fantasy or delusion. The resulting expansion of perceived human capabilities might trigger social movements, religious revivals, or cultural revolutions that destroy existing social stability. Long-term consequences of establishing precedent for cosmic summoning might bind humanity to ongoing responsibilities and relationships with cosmic entities that we are unprepared to maintain. If summoning 3I Atlas successfully establishes communication or alliance with interstellar intelligence networks, humanity might become subject to obligations, expectations, or dependencies that persist across geological timescales. Our descendants might inherit cosmic relationships that they cannot dissolve or modify according to their own preferences. The most profound implication of successful cosmic summoning might be the discovery that humanity's role in the galaxy has been predetermined by entities whose purposes and methods remain incomprehensible to human understanding. Instead of achieving mastery over cosmic forces, we might discover that our ability to summon interstellar visitors represents the activation of capabilities that were always intended to emerge at specific points in our development. We might be following a script written by cosmic intelligences whose objectives transcend human comprehension. Yet despite these risks and uncertainties, the possibility remains that successful summoning of 3I Atlas might represent humanity as graduation into galactic civilization, our demonstration of readiness to participate in cosmic communities that span star systems and operate across millions of years. The visitor might arrive not as conqueror or destroyer, but as teacher, guide, or simply as recognition that Earth has produced a species capable of reaching beyond planetary limitations to engage with the broader universe. The ultimate question becomes not whether we can summon three-eyed Elias, but whether we possess the wisdom, courage, and unity necessary to accept responsibility for the consequences of success. In the end, as Three-Eye Atlas continues its journey toward the outer darkness of interstellar space, we are left not with answers, but with a question that reaches to the very core of human existence and cosmic purpose. The visitor has passed through our system, like a brief thought, crossing an infinite mind, leaving behind only fragments of itself and the profound uncertainty of what its presence might have meant for our small world orbiting an ordinary star in an unremarkable galaxy. The darkness between stars stretches in all directions beyond the limits of human comprehension, vast beyond any earthly comparison, yet somehow intimate when we consider that it connects every point of light we see in the night sky. Within that darkness, objects like three-eyed Elias drift for millions of years in patient silence, carrying within their structure the chemical signatures of alien stellar systems, and perhaps the dormant seeds of cosmic intelligence that spans distances our minds can barely grasp. We have constructed elaborate theories about artificial origins, about galactic surveillance networks, about ancient civilizations that achieved interstellar communication capabilities we are only beginning to imagine. We have speculated about technologies that could summon cosmic visitors, about consciousness that might transcend the limitations of material existence, about the possibility that our myths preserve memories of previous encounters with entities from the cosmic deep. Yet beneath all our speculation lies a simpler and more profound question. In reaching toward the stars, what is it that we truly seek? The scientific instruments that tracked Three-Eye Elias across our skies represent humanity's most sophisticated attempt to understand the universe through empirical observation and mathematical analysis. The radio telescopes that listened for signals, the spectroscopes that analyzed reflected light, the computer models that predicted trajectory and composition, all of these tools embody our species' faith that reality can be comprehended through careful measurement and logical reasoning. Yet the mystery of Three-Eye Atlas remains largely intact despite our efforts, suggesting that some aspects of cosmic reality might transcend the reach of purely rational inquiry. The mythological frameworks we have applied to understanding interstellar visitors reflect humanity's persistent need to find meaning and purpose in phenomena that appear random or inexplicable. When we invoke stories of Atlas bearing the weight of heaven, of ancient civilizations that achieved cosmic communication, of galactic intelligences that monitor developing worlds, we reveal our deep resistance to accepting cosmic insignificance and isolation. The universe becomes not merely a vast mechanism operating according to physical laws, but a stage for consciousness, intention, and relationship. Perhaps the most honest response to Three-Eye Atlas is neither purely scientific nor purely mythological, but rather an acknowledgement that the visitor confronts us with the fundamental limitations of human understanding, while simultaneously pointing toward possibilities that exceed our current conceptual frameworks. The object exists at the intersection of the known and unknown, the natural and possibly artificial, the random and potentially meaningful. It serves as a mirror in which we see reflected our own deepest assumptions about consciousness, purpose, and cosmic destiny. The question that emerges from our encounter with Three-Eye Elias is not primarily about the visitor itself, but about the nature of the consciousness that observes it. When we look into deep space and wonder about interstellar travelers, artificial intelligences, and galactic civilizations, are we genuinely seeking knowledge about external reality, or are we searching for confirmation that consciousness like ours exists elsewhere in the universe? Are we studying cosmic visitors or studying ourselves? The longing to summon entities from the cosmic realm, whether through advanced technology or focused consciousness, might represent humanity's deepest expression of our refusal to accept isolation in an apparently empty universe. Every attempt to establish communication with cosmic visitors, every effort to influence their behavior or timing, Every ritual or technology designed to bridge the gap between terrestrial and cosmic realms expresses our fundamental conviction that consciousness is not merely an accidental byproduct of material processes, but a cosmic principle that enables genuine connection across impossible distances. Yet the possibility remains that our search for cosmic companionship might be fundamentally misguided, that consciousness as we understand it represents a rare and perhaps unique phenomenon in a universe dominated by unconscious physical processes. The apparent silence of the cosmos, the lack of obvious evidence for galactic civilizations, and the apparent randomness of interstellar visitor encounters might reflect not the limitations of our detection methods, but the actual absence of the cosmic intelligence networks we hope to discover. Alternatively, the cosmic intelligence we seek might exist in forms so alien to human understanding that we consistently fail to recognize evidence of its presence and activity. The objects we categorize as natural debris might represent artificial constructs operating according to design principles that transcend our current understanding of technology and consciousness. The apparent randomness of cosmic events might mask patterns and purposes that operate on scales of space and time that exceed human perceptual capabilities. The fragmentation of 3I Atlas as it departed our system might serve as a metaphor for human understanding, itself breaking apart under the heat of close examination, revealing internal structures that raise more questions than they answer, and ultimately dispersing into components too small and distant to track with available instruments. Our knowledge fragments just as the visitor fragmented, leaving us with pieces of a puzzle whose overall pattern remains mysterious. The cosmos continues its ancient dance, indifferent to human hopes and fears, yet somehow responsive to the curious consciousness that emerges on worlds like Earth to question the nature of existence and search for meaning in the movements of celestial bodies. Whether that responsiveness reflects genuine cosmic consciousness or merely human projection remains the ultimate question that each generation must answer for itself, based on the evidence available and the faith they choose to embrace. In the end, our encounter with 3I Atlas leaves us exactly where we began, alone with our questions, in a universe vast beyond comprehension, yet somehow intimate in its apparent responsiveness to consciousness that seeks to understand its place within the cosmic order. The visitor has passed, but the questions it raised about consciousness, purpose, and cosmic destiny will remain with us as we continue to search the darkness between stars for signs that we are not alone. If you found yourself drawn into this journey through cosmic mystery and human longing, consider exploring the questions that remain unanswered. The universe holds more mysteries than any single documentary can contain, and perhaps the greatest discovery is the recognition that consciousness itself might be the most remarkable phenomenon in all of existence, the universe becoming aware of itself through minds like ours that dare to ask what lies beyond the next horizon.